Good evening. There's a slight change. Unfortunately, I am committed to something else, so I will need to be leaving. So facilities will be the first up topic for tonight. We have 3 public comments. 2 are listed as opening comments. Do we want to do these before, do them now or wait until before the finance committee? Got it. And Jen, before finance, perfect. And going on to, so the facilities committee meeting, our first up, I believe if they're here, is for the ICS summer 2027 projects and the update for the 2026 projects. Presentation for that. There. I saw them outside, so I don't know if.
Is facilities?
Go to number 3 then?
I'd add it till Jim Hyman.
I think Craig just left.
Number 3.
Not only do we not have ICS,
We could do.
Well, how about this? We'll go to obsolete items for review.
Yeah, do
Since I
that.
kind of threw this.
All right.
So we got the Guth mixer is up for,
Oh, you're there.
All right.
yep, sorry, but
yeah,
guys.
I'll let them get set up here. Obsolete items for review. There's a mixer at Guth that's going to be up for scrap. Instruments at Grass, they're up for scrap. And the technology department has various equipments for recycling, and all of those items are listed on board docs. Ready?
Yeah, I'm very sorry to keep you.
No, it's fine.
No,
I imagine we were further down the roster, so apologies. I'm going to give you an update on the status of the summer 2026 projects and the outlook, the budgets, and so forth for the prospective 2027 projects. And just again, thanks for your time, John. Young, I have Cody West, we're pretty familiar with. Looking back at the 2026 summer projects that we've been developing over the last year, bidding, approved, and so forth, they're all scheduled to kick off now. This is the work scopes that you're familiar with, different 4 bid packages that we put out. As far as an update on these, they're all starting to kick off in the next couple weeks. You can see there's a couple dates on here. Some things that have already started, leading into the end of last week, beginning of this one, and so forth. But they'll all be kicked off in the coming week or so. Looking pretty good on that. The high school pool scoreboard replacement, that is ordered, that was released, should be coming here towards the end of July. We'll get that right in, hopefully, and put it in there for good timing with the upcoming season. So everything in pretty good shape. Been coordinating, Scott Kenny's been coordinating with Craig and the admin on getting those things across, coordinating with, of course, all those contractors, so forth, to have good smooth projects throughout.
They'll
Any
all be
questions on
done,
this?
all be done by the end of the summer?
Yeah, they should all be done, substantially completed by the end of summer, maybe some punches.
Just think of this is your first report card. You got a full summer to do all the work and had problems in the past of getting it done in time, so you can be there.
Right, well, we'll be working closely with the admin throughout the summer, of course, and having these updates, and then likely be back in here in August or thereabouts to give an update to the board on the progress, and you'll know of any significant events leading up to that. But we expect it to go pretty smoothly. So again, here are the timelines, substantial completion again for these projects in August, punch list things or some little finishing touches into the fall here, but should be very minor. We should have all those things up and cooking for the start of school. So
What's
excited about the prospect of a good productive summer.
What's October is final completion?
It's the final like punch out things and making sure that everything's copacetic and signed off. But everything, like I say, there shouldn't be any disruptions during the school year for anything that's supposed to.
That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, Scoreboard replacement, as I mentioned, we expect to have the 10 weeks, for the board to be produced and be on site here towards the end of July, and a quick installation for that, ready for the beginning of the water polo season. I think it's the first thing that comes up for the pool. Fair enough. Okay, so again, going back, talking about the prospective projects for next summer. Of course, as you'll remember from the red, yellow, orange, green kind of matrix there, there's significant needs, as you would expect for any large portfolio schools. So how do you drill down on what can be deferred and what the priorities should be? The first thing we look at is that warm, safe, dry. The things that are going to keep you in school or out of school, or teachers teaching, kids learning, and so forth. Fitting them in these summer timelines obviously is critical, as we just discussed. So we minimize the disruption. There's some things certainly that we can do during the school year, but many things we have to look at. Hey, can we get this by next summer? Can we design and bid and get it back here and installed with the lead times for next summer, and has that relatively short summer window to implement. The budget was set at $4 million. We still have that. We're awaiting the results of that PSFIG grant application. We expected that should be this month. If not next month, that's the buzz that we've heard necessarily. So we've kind of set up the budget with and without that project, if you will. And you'll see that in the ensuing lines here. A la carte standalone project. This means that you can approve these things kind of individually, or pick them off. And one isn't, cascade into the other, like, oh, if we don't do this, we can't do that. So, you're familiar with, we've used cooperative purchasing in the past, very comfortable using public bidding, the normal design, bid, public procurement. So that's something that we'll continue to work with the administration, of course, with your guidance on how we handle the procurement package of projects. So these are the ones that we've outlined. This is a little bit of a refined list from when we last talked to you. But again, the zeros here in green with the bluish outline to them, those are the projects that we expect to be completed this summer. The ones that are outlined here in the thicker black squares are the summer 2027 prospective projects. And you'll see that we're a lot of this is going to be roofing, and then there's some also HVAC, that has some expiring gas that we want to get away from, and it's also the age of the equipment and so forth. It's tough to maintain. It's getting more and more expensive for that outdated R22 refrigerant. Some more details about it there, but it's kind of something that if you can dovetail together while you're doing the work on those roofs, it probably makes a lot of sense. The boiler plant and air handling units, Central Middle School, that's the grant application, right, that we expect to know more about. A substantial, investment, and hopefully we can get a good chunk of money for you on that and move forward with that project. The plaza entrance of the high school, we have some pictures that kind of detail a little bit more of what we're talking about there and the scope. But these are all kind of, tip of the spear type of needs for the district to prioritize. Well, any questions right away on this? We do have some more details about it. Okay. Kevin, can you talk a little bit about these?
Everybody, well again. So yeah, on the roofing projects, I think the main focus on this slide is down at the bottom in green. Last we met, we had sort of identified different areas based on a district-wide assessment that was done. So in the last month, we've gone out and put boots on the ground and evaluated all of those roof sections that were identified. And so tonight we just want to give a overview of our findings and recommendations for the different roofing sections. I guess it's worth noting, we're really looking at the potential to retrofit versus replace completely, as well as the potential to defer some of these projects. And then we've also further defined the scope and the budgets based on the last time we met. So at Diveler, there were 3 roof sections identified, B, C through C2, and H through M. So it's, sort of our previous assumptions about the section B were confirmed. This section it's older, it's out of warranty. There's active leaks. It's been repaired multiple times, and the recommendation is for replacement. The other sections are in fair condition, and they could be deferred, and that is our recommendation. Certainly, we're going to continue to track these roof sections, but the core samples, et cetera, indicate that they're good, even though they're actually older than that section B, and they don't need to be replaced or retrofitted at this time. At Siler,
What part of the building?
so B is that long
Yep.
classroom wing.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so at Siler, same thing. There's sort of 3 sections that were identified. A, C, and the G area surrounding the media center space. Media center space, yeah. So area A is a EPDM rubber roof in fair condition. Our recommendation is to defer, but there are a couple of roof wall connections that we're recommending just some repair work with some flashing. Area C, again, it's a long classroom section. That's actually where these 2 photos are from. Again, the findings, the previous assumptions were confirmed. There's wet insulation, there's inactive leaks that have been repaired, and the recommendation is to replace. And this area G, again, it's 25 years old, but it is in fair condition. So our recommendation is to defer and kind of keep our eyes on this roof section. Unfortunately, this section consists of 2 roofs. So previously, when it was retrofitted, it was just sort of roofed over the prior. So when it comes time to, address the roof, it will need to be replaced completely. But again, we're going to defer for now.
I appreciate you finding out that they didn't have any leaks. So, I mean, doing that type of,
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of
We
leaks.
got really good feedback from you guys, last month, and Craig was helpful enough to get Scott out on the roofs, and they spent time, really digging into what needed to be done. So it's a kind of a similar story at Grass. The section B, our recommendation is replacement. Really, there's very little slope and sort of a lack of roof drains. So there would be some tapered insulation requirements and potentially a couple additional roof drains that would be needed to kind of get this roof draining properly. I think, again, this is a opportunity to, give credit where credit's due. From Craig's standpoint, you have staff that are actively repairing these leaks and staying on top of the issues. So,
Given that it's only 16 years old and it's got substantial problems, you're going to modify it so
correct.
it drains in and
Yeah,
lasts
all
longer.
right, it's our So similarly to roofing sections. So when it was last done, it was retrofitted and just sort of, gone over the top. So we'll need to tear off 2 roof sections and get it done right.
We're so is- we- at the end of that part. I don't want to like interrupt if you're.
No, the only other thing is this area E is in also in good condition. It's an EPDM roof, 26 years old, but it's tight. The seams have been maintained. It's not leaking. So our recommendation is to defer that section.
So were there any thermal imaging done for the areas that there's leaking, like, or that,
You know,
have we done any thermal imaging to like make sure that there's not,
like issues with what's
Moisture.
below.
yeah,
So, I can't say for sure, but we can share the reports that have been done to date. The 3 sections, the one at Grass, the one at Siler, so C at Siler and E at Dibler. Core sampling was done. As far as thermal imaging for moisture, I can't say for sure, but they did find moisture just from the core sampling.
I guess the biggest place would be this, Siler's G1, G7, since it's,
So this one, that's a great point. That's something we should be doing moving forward is, keeping an eye on these, whether it's thermal imaging or taking core samples moving forward, to make sure that we don't have any, leaks that aren't actually coming through into the building. And, like you said, like, moist insulation and whatnot, below the
just
roof
I
surface.
think this is why, and I've had this argument and I've said it before, I think this is just exactly why I have such an issue with built up, because I'm looking at this and it's, Dibler's got built up, it's 21 years, it's critical, needs replacement, both EPDMs are able to be deferred. Siler's EPDM, the rubber,
Yeah, and so,
Sorry.
I think that we could certainly explore alternates, and price out built up versus EPDM as we get into the design.
and then this is the other reason why I also like, I'm adamantly against going over top of anything, because I look at, just like
Right.
everyone said,
Right.
single ply over built up roof, it's 16 years and it's failing.
Yeah,
Because-
that's at Grass, yes.
And that's where you get that water that gets underneath of it, and then it just destroys the insulation below, and now
Yeah.
you're stuck.
So, Scott couldn't be here tonight. He's much more savvy when it comes to roofing than I am, but it's my understanding at Grass that there was still ballast left over from the first roof that was roofed over, which is just it's the gravel that that gets put on top of the asphalt in a built-up roof system that it gets saturated into the asphalt, and that protects sort of your weather barrier. There was some gravel still in the core sample. There was gravel still in the roofing system from that overlay project. So it's tough because we don't want to just retrofit if we can replace, but it's also more expensive to
replace.
than it is to do a retrofit. So
I no means am I a roof person, but the last 2 years, I think I've learned more about roofs than I ever want to know for built up roofs and EPDM, and just some of the things that I've seen, I'm just like baffled about going over top of a built up with another built up, because you're just compressing that problem. And
right.
even the issue that I'm dealing with currently, that just the vendors for built up roofs, not very trustworthy that they're doing the customers. So
Yeah, and I do think that a lot of these EPDM roofs that are still in good condition generally have more of a slope. Generally, they were installed on some of these additions that were, they're not 50s, 60s, 70s era construction. They're more in that late 90s, early 2000 construction. So the roofs themselves are sort of more sloped. They're generally more over like the gym spaces.
Well, if it's 2000s era, I assume that I'm going to take a leap that that I know who the manufacturer is, and that's right about that same time that they had manufacturing defects. So it would be par for the course that that's the roof, and that's part of the reason.
So any more questions on the detail, where we're at? Because then I wanted to just run through the other sort of three groups of projects so that we can talk about budget. But generally on the roof, we've identified the areas that absolutely should be, that are priority, and then work the budget to ensure that we can get those roofs done. Additionally, there's the R22 equipment at the same three buildings. At Dibler, there's 3 rooftop units, and then there's 15 VAV boxes associated with those rooftop units, and there's a kitchen hood and exhaust fan associated with the makeup air unit and an exhaust fan associated with the kitchen hood. All of this equipment is end of life expectancy, and the rooftops are R22 refrigerant. So the recommendation is to replace these. Similar at Tyler, there's a rooftop unit. There's a air handling unit, like a split air handling unit and condensing unit system, and then 6 VAV boxes associated with that air handling unit. At Grass, there's 2 rooftops, 9 VAVs associated with the rooftops, and a split system that serves the stage area.
Why do all the VAVs have to be replaced? Are they just old?
So that's, again, that would be something we could put in as an alternate to
They're
maintain.
separate, so
That's
I
right.
don't know if they're family.
So
Reason-
they're,
I know they wouldn't
they're-
sell the whole
certainly, so the life expectancy on the boxes is shorter than
Yeah.
the rooftop units themselves, but that's something that we'll explore during design and work with the admin to further define that scope. It's nice to have these alternates so that if, on bid day, we're high here or low there, that we can sort of, like John said, it's like an a la carte kind of menu of projects that we can approve. The boiler plant and the air handling units at the middle school, again, this is that project that we had assembled based on the PSFIG grant. And then the student entry at the high school. We've sort of developed a good, better, best scope with the admin and a couple of contractors that we had take a look at what the possibilities were for repair versus replacement versus, full-blown reconstruction of this student entry.
There will be an option to repair it versus just ripping it all out.
That's right. So it's like a good, better, best scenario where, the good is addressing all the issues, but more from like a cutting and repairing sort of. The better would be, replacements of like whole slab sections.
But the area isn't going to change. Or
No,
scope is, we're satisfied.
No.
Just
I mean, are we seeing deterioration there because of like drainage issues, or is it just,
I think it's mostly just wear and tear. The entrance gets a lot of foot traffic, salt, and just age.
And there's obviously sections of that have been patched, so it's not gonna last, it's pretty slow.
I believe the last work that was done in this area was about 3 years ago.
Sean, was it 3 years ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you want to speak to this? Okay, great.
Cody kind of details. So what you'll see here is a breakdown of the approximation costs for the different pieces of the construction here. You know, for each of the bid packages by themselves, and then kind of grossed up costs at the bottom for the different expectations involved there. What I've highlighted there in that item 1.07, that's the grant, right? So if we were to get that grant, that could be included in the scope for like $4 million out of pocket is what we're talking about here. So on the left column, the total base, that's all the scope that we talked about with the exclusion of that boiler plant and air handling units at the central middle school. The right column includes that scope and associated, costs of adding that project in. The fees for our services would be covered under that professional services fee in the form of the B-132 and C-132 agreements, the same ones that were signed for the 2026 projects. The B-132 really covers the design, the construction administration, the development planning for these jobs, and then part of the bidding process, preparation, collaboration on documents. And then the C-132 is the construction management aspect of it. So that's coordinating with the contractor, it's preparation of bids, the de-scoping, all those things, coordination with the contractors in the lead up to construction, a lot of pre-construction work there, working through the levels of design with costing and so forth. To kind of cover the gamut of what we're doing. So everything from the design and the planning for this, all the way through the implementation would be covered and
That's
detailed
2.0.
in those B-132, C-132. Also gives us the ability to direct construction. Right? It gives us the authority with the contractors to give them direction for the projects.
So, because this is my first time seeing one of these, want to make sure I'm reading it right. Everything in under 1.0 is the materials and the labor for the contractors, correct?
Correct.
And then everything under 2.0 is you guys, which is the management.
It's mostly us. Yeah, there's some other professional fees that you could consider in there for special testing and things like that, but the majority of that is us, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Right, and then there's some contingency left in there at the bottom, to cover things that come up during the construction. So give you a little bit of a buffer, as we know that there's always going to be something you don't quite account for.
I know you already explained this, but I just want to make sure. The total with grant number is including the money we're getting from the grant, not what we still have to pay.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the grant would cover the last, conceivably, right?
Yeah.
The scope of the grant is about $1.6 million or so, just around there that we put in. The district will be responsible to match $1 for every 3, right? So if it was 1.6 million, the first 1.2 could conceivably come from the grant, and the last 400 would be your matching funds. That's part of the parameters of the grant is that you have to match quarter of funds.
Why would that be 0?
In the left-hand column, that would not include the scope at all. right? So if you didn't do that plant,
So if we do get the grant, it's still gonna cost us more.
Yeah, it's gonna
it would, the delta between the left column and the right is just about $1.6 million, right? So you would be the first 4 million of that, and the last 1.2 would come in the form of a grant. If you don't include it, you don't incur that matching fund cost, is the idea. You would defer that project.
Yeah.
What's in the permits? 81,000, then they mentioned the soft costs at the bottom also meant permits. Why is it 81,000 for permits? Design.
I'm sorry, I'm not exactly seeing where.
Oh, I'm sorry, 3.0.
3.0? Yeah, so this would be the permitting from the township, or the, the jurisdiction. That would be the cost of the permits for construction.
And then permits are listed again.
Well, that was smart.
Yeah, so
Soft and owner costs, so.
that total soft cost is inclusive of, you know, construction contingency is.
I understand
because That's owner held contingency that's also included. That's.
I understand what- I just would love to see a breakout for the soft and owner costs. What is
I think
included?
that the only other thing in that is outside of the permit fees and other miscellaneous testing, costs for, your solicitor, legal fees. You know, when we put these budgets together at like this early stage, we're trying to count anything that could come up.
So that is a
this project.
projected, would it still build by? So I build as this.
So, yeah, so that 3.0 number is a budget.
Budget. So it still would build.
It's not a fee.
Okay.
It's us accounting for some percentage for
What a typical
permitting,
project.
some percentage for legal fees, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you.
Certainly. Yeah. So, prospective milestones similar to the ones that we showed you earlier. Including the approval of going to work to engineer and design these projects and get them out. Through the fall and into the middle of winter there, where we get in a good season for putting these out on the street before folks are booked up. So part of the process of the planning was kind of being in front of the wave and getting these things working before a lot of folks are into that 2027 project schedule. And we're going in there where folks don't have their summers booked up and so forth. We should expect to get pretty good responses and better numbers than if we kind of got out a little bit later and we're hustling to get in. Also helping us with those timelines for long lead items and so forth. So as you can see, the timeline here rolls out similar to the ones that you've seen in the others. Here for your questions in the interim. And we look forward to a good summer. Any questions?
Anybody? Questions? All right. I think we're good.
Thanks,
Thank you.
folks.
Perfect. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Right, so with that, then I guess the IAI document C 132B 132, that's just to cover the contract for those projects, correct?
Yes.
For the
Yep.
26, 27?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, as John explained, one is for professional services to develop the projects and one is to manage the project.
Yep. All right, so then moving on to 3, the testing for the lead in the drinking water results.
So we started over this year with going back through the schools. Last year, we had completed going through water sources throughout all the schools. So basically, we started over again, and we picked our 5 locations at every school, tested, and we had to go back and retest one location at one of the elementary schools, but after we replaced the pictures and retested, everything came back clear. So we made sure that everything was in the normal parameters and everything was passed.
Awesome. How do you pick what places to sample from?
So we go through and we just create an array of the building, capturing where all the potable water sources are located. And we just have a starting point that we have picked and where we plan to finish by the time we're done. So we'll do 5 a year just for the sake of cost. And we just keep plugging away.
Okay. So every year it's like a different plot.
Yeah, we make sure we keep maps to track where we tested the year prior so that we don't double test.
Everything was tested once.
So everything, yeah, we finished testing everywhere before. So last year we had finished testing all of them and then started over again at the beginning of the cycle. So this is our first year of the second time.
So for all the years that I've been here, we've had a few fail. It's always replaced the faucet. It's good. What's going on? Why is there lead in?
So some of the older fixtures, when you have the very old fixtures, the odds of it being able to leach into the system are higher. So what we do is when we have a location come back where the parts per billion is higher than it should be, we go through and the mouthpieces or faucets or the underside fixtures, we will replace them all. And then that's when we retest them at that point. And when we retest, is typically we're pretty successful at that point. We come back well below.
What's the testing for specifically?
We specifically test for lead.
Just for lead?
Yep.
I think that's from a law.
ECS, they do this.
No, so we collect the samples ourselves and we send them to EMS. It's a lot cheaper than having ECS. Well, I'll say it's comparable, but we can get more samples done if we do it ourselves than if we pay someone else to do it. So I had it priced out for ECS consideration. They could do 3 samples a year, or we can do 5 samples a year.
So we are saving money then.
We are saving money. It's great. My one maintenance guy just loves driving to Jersey, but it saved us some money.
All right, and then, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, we do have the obsolete items for review. We want to go over those again. It's just the mixer at Guth, instruments at Grass. The technology department has various equipment for recycling. The high school has public surplus. All of that is listed on board docs for your public review. So.
You're gonna auction off the 1980s TVs?
I don't think we get much for those.
Yeah, you almost
I
have
saw
to
that one.
pay for people to take them.
Yeah, I think.
You get rid of them.
All right, and with that, I guess public comment. So the next facilities committee meeting is scheduled for August 24th.
Doing finance or finance or personnel?
Personnel.
Go to personnel.
Okay.
I don't think there's any public comments for personnel. All right, first up, we have a presentation from Mr. Pye on the health trend review and stop loss and life.
Thank you all for having me. Hope everyone's having a great start to the summer here. Wanted to get back in front of the group again today to talk about healthcare trends, talk a little bit about the 26-27 renewal schedule since we're going up on July 1st, and also just see if there are any questions or observations as we go through this update. Two main items we want to touch on really here: medical and prescription drug trends, which really kind of break into how the financials are doing, and then some specifics with respect to prescription drug. We've talked about that quite a bit over the last year or so to make sure we're kind of keeping the group up to date with what's happening in the market and what we're seeing here at the district, and then go through some of the new 26-27 renewals. The medical ASO, stop loss, and life are all up for renewal here. We have some updates on those pretty good results for the district that we'd like to share. So we'll start off with the medical and prescription drug trends here. Here's a chart that I've shared the last couple times we've met. Basically looking at your fiscal year performance from a financial standpoint, looking at the average contract holders enrolled each fiscal year. So again, contract holders generally mean your employees and retirees, not the dependent children or spouses. And then your total adjusted medical and prescription drug claims. And then where that essentially goes to the right is developing out a per contract per month claim cost, and then deriving a trend to really show you on a year-to-year basis how things are evolving and changing for the district. And you can see here, we have a kind of a 5-year snapshot. We're obviously not fully through 25, 26 yet, but just looking at your year-over-year trends on the right side of that chart can really see the variability, even for a group like yours where you have 2,200 covered members, 800 plus contracts. You're going to see little spikes and dips in trend. Back in 21, 22, 22, 23, you saw numbers that I would categorize as lower than average trend. And then we really saw things take off in 23, 24, where you saw a 15% trend. Last couple of years have settled in what I'd consider average marketplace trend that we're seeing at 9 and about 8.5%. Last time we spoke, when we looked at this a few months ago, the 25-26 number was trending a little bit closer to 10.5. So the last couple months have been good. But really, when you look at this over that 5-year snapshot, the average is right in the neighborhood about 7.5 to 8%. Again, kind of falls in line with kind of average trend. But just to give you some perspective right now, because of a lot of the factors in the marketplace on both the medical side with some post-COVID inflation, the prescription drug side, especially with specialty drugs and GLP-1s, which we'll talk about in a minute, we've really seen trends spike up. We work for over 100 school districts in the state between self-funded standalones and trusts. And I'd say the average trend we're seeing, at least in our book of business now, is closer to about 10%. So claims are running a little bit better for the district. We're definitely seeing that more on the medical side.
What
Yes.
what do you attribute the spike in 23, 24 to?
So a little bit of that, I would just say some variance. That is where we started to see some of the spike in your prescription drug, which I'll go into. That's really when GLP-1 started emerging in the marketplace. So on the prescription side, we definitely saw some trend there. Also for your group on the medical side, 2024, seeing a higher prevalence of high claimants. Now, the district does have a stop loss policy that we'll talk a little bit about, but you're essentially capped out at $225,000 per member. Everything above that's taken on by the reinsurer, but you did have a number of individuals who bumped up against that limit a couple years back, so that helped drive it as well. But again, these type of variations are pretty common for a group your size. You're going to see those spikes. We work for a group that I think has 8,000 contracts who just last year saw a 20% trend year over year. So it's certainly happening in the marketplace. Okay. Next slide has a lot of information on it, but it's one we've shared before. It's that GLP-1 performance that we've seen for the trust. And just as a reminder, your GLP-1 prescriptions kind of break into two different categories. There's your diabetic GLP-1s, Ozempic and Mounjaro really being the two most common. The anti-obesity GLP-1s, Wegovy, Zepbound being the two most common there. Obviously, these have become a very significant kind of mover in the marketplace, especially over the last few years. And as we said, we've really seen just in these 4 years, these 4 plan years, how those increases have impacted the district. I'll point out on the diabetic side, you can see how that number started about $200,000 in claims back in 22, 23. We're projecting almost 600,000 here in 25, 26. A lot of our groups right now are seeing that diabetic number start to level off a little bit, just because most members who are diabetic, who are kind of seeing their physicians right now, have been prescribed to these medications ongoing because they're the first class treatment. So we're hoping to see that number kind of level out, but we are seeing what appears to be about a 45% trend this year versus last year on the diabetic side. On the anti-obesity side, again, this is where all the districts and groups that we're working with who provide this type of coverage are seeing increases right now. And again, you can see, go back 4 years ago, that number was south of $90,000 in claims. We're projecting here for 25, 26, that number is going to be about 1.3 million. Now,
Do all the districts cover that? You're saying,
all districts do not. Now, I'll speak at it this way. There's kind of 2 groups I would classify here. There's groups that for a number of years didn't cover these lifestyle drugs. For a while, they didn't really cost that much. It wasn't a big deal. There were anti-obesity drugs out there, but they didn't compare in cost to these new GLP-1s. But of groups that did cover, we are seeing some start to take action to potentially exclude them or cover them under different management. So I'd say of our book of business, the majority still do cover them, but obviously everyone's considering different options because those who do are seeing this type of cost increases.
thank you.
What do we attribute the rise of the number of scripts in these 2?
So again, I think on the diabetic side, that one's a little bit more surprising because in the last couple of years, we have seen a flattening out of that for our other groups. I think you might have situations where you still have members who are getting on these medications. Maybe they had previously not taken these specific medications before or had been consistently seeing a physician. Again, most diabetics who are consistently seeing a primary care provider are on these scripts because, again, they are the best way to really treat diabetes right now. On the weight loss, anti-obesity drugs, it really is more of just kind of what's happened in the market, not only the health market, but really just culturally. You hear it in the news everywhere. It becomes more and more popular. I'll say I have some information on the next slide too. These drugs, new versions of these drugs have hit the market, especially recently. For a while, these drugs were only available on an injectable basis. Now there's oral versions of them too. So you have people who may not have wanted to take them in injectable form who are now willing to do so orally.
Correct me if I'm wrong though, isn't it that those drugs are also used to treat conditions like PCOS and things like that?
Yep. So
So it's not just, hey, I want this. There are some people who are also in that category who need it medically.
Yep. So a good way to classify this when we look at anti-obesity drugs, typically there's some good conditions in place in order to be prescribed to them. One of them is having a BMI of 30 or above. The other is typically having at least one comorbidity. But as you said, there are things like sleep apnea paired with obesity where that type of drug can be prescribed as well. So, yep, there's different indications. Frankly, there could be new ones that we'll be seeing in the next 6 to 12 months as well.
On the prior slide, you had actual numbers for 25, 26, knowing that we still have like the rest of this month to total it.
Yep.
On here, and I'm trying to reconcile the footnotes with the numbers then. So this is still projected, not actual.
Yes. So best way to put this on the GLP-1 drugs right now, we have data up through the end of May, essentially. So we're really just waiting on the last month of June to play out. We're just assuming one more additional month of claims that we're using for our projected numbers. When we go back to that last slide, we still don't have full information here.
Yeah.
You can see your 11 million versus the 15 million in the prior year. That's lower, but because of the total number of months that we're looking at, per contract per month number is still higher. This data actually is only through February with a month of that there. So we're still able
Missing 4 months of data.
Exactly. This takes longer to develop on this basis because we're looking at medical trends, which typically have a longer run out and lag period For prescriptions, we know pretty much when the month's over how many scripts have been filled. So that's how we're able to get this data in place quicker.
So with what you're seeing so far, this projection seems like it's still accurate.
Yeah, this projection should certainly be fairly accurate. Again, we've taken basically the 11 complete months of data and then just completed it with one additional month. That's a reflection of, I think, the average of the past 2 months. So it should really reflect what we're seeing very recently.
And then the other footnote, could you explain that they do not include the offset for rebates from claims?
Yeah, so again, rebates do become a big piece of this, and it's something we'll talk about on the next slide. But as you know, there's certain high-cost drugs that are out in the marketplace. Specialty drugs are a lot like that, but GLP-1 drugs have been as well, where there are rebatable dollars that come back to groups who have these drugs. And those rebates are essentially negotiated through the contract that you have with your pharmacy benefit manager, CVS right now. For these type of drugs, we don't get the exact breakdown of what it is per drug, but the marketplace estimates are anywhere from 35 to 45% of costs. So again, when you look at a number like that, 1.87 million as your total GLP-1 projected spend in claims for 25, 26, when you take the rebates into account, that number is going to be close to $1 million.
So the rebates come back to
Yes,
us,
back
not
to, yep,
to-
exactly. Yeah, the rebates come back to the district because the district's paying those claims up front.
And did the prior year numbers, like the 24, 25, do those include the rebates also?
Those do not include.
Okay.
So it is an apples to apples comparison, but you're right, the overall raw numbers don't reflect the actual rebates that come back to the district.
The rebates would go away when the manufacturer says not the rebate.
So, good segue to the next slide. Appreciate it. So you can see here, there's all kinds of developments in the marketplace. I touched on how these anti-obesity medications continue to be developed. There's the oral versions that have come out. There's a new triple agonist version, retatrutide, that's going to hit the market this year that has even better clinical results than Wegovy and Zepbound. So we do expect there to be continued use. That second bullet point, the second main bullet point here, talks about a lot of these drugs, because of marketplace pressures, because of political pressures, have been really pressured to reduce their prices. Because when you look at Wegovy or Zepbound, we'll talk about those two anti-obesity medications. Those drugs typically have a list price over $1,000 per month when someone fills it. Now, again, the rebates might account for 40% of that, so it might be a net cost of $600 to the district. But in 2027, Novo Nordisk has come out and said for Wegovy and Ozempic that we make, we're going to slash our list prices by almost 1/2. The expectation is those rebates are basically going to go. So it sounds good on its face, but the reality is it's probably a net neutral cost impact to an employer or the district like you. Again, it makes a good headline, but the rebates are going to go away. You're still paying the same net cost you would have otherwise been.
What do we get from the rebates last year? Do we know that?
I think I'll speak a little bit to that. The rebates are lagged somewhat. So when rebates are filled right now, we might have just gotten a rebate payment for what ended in the fourth quarter of 2025. I think the total number is probably in the neighborhood of about 2.4 million in total rebates. And again, when you look at your plan spend on prescription, I think I had it on the last slide. For 24, 25, the total prescription was 5.2. This year we're trending over 6. So it is a good portion of it. But a lot of that, again, comes from these drugs and certain high-cost specialty drugs.
Can I ask questions
Yeah.
on that slide? When you're on for diabetes,
Yep.
does that take these drugs? Do you reduce other drugs or other needs for drugs, insulin or things like that? Or?
So a lot of I'll say the return on investment that you see from diabetic GLP-1s comes more on the medical side.
Okay.
When individuals are adhering to those diabetic GLP-1s, they're seeing weight loss, they're seeing health improvements. They're seeing, as long as they're adhering, they're really seeing better results on the medical side, which usually show lower claim costs on the medical side.
So they still have to take the same amount of insulin they took before?
I believe so, yes.
Depends on the type of diet. That's specific to the diabetics, right? If we're looking
Yeah, no,
at
no, I'm
the
aware.
anti-obesity.
Yep.
I don't know, the claims aren't showing that, correct?
Yeah, so it's a good point. Like, again, that's kind of the $1 million question right now. There's been plenty of studies that have been done to say Do the improvements in health for individuals who are on these drugs justify the cost of that? And there's one study done by the Society of Actuaries that basically said, if we break these individuals into different groups based on their BMI, we can identify certain BMI groups where there is a better return on investment. Someone's BMI is 40 or above, they have maybe a more urgent or critical need for those type of drugs. They see the more immediate health returns that lower medical costs. Someone whose BMI is 30 to 32, they're not seeing that type of return on investment. Again, there's plenty of studies out there. It's still early in the game, but yeah, that's really the big dollar question. Yep. Last item I'll hit here, the specialty drug program that was implemented in 2026. Something we talked about this time last year. It was a Prudent RX CVS program that basically used manufacturer funds to help pay for specialty drugs, those high cost biologics and injectables. Those have both a member savings and a district savings. I know the district and association talked about putting this program into place. It did. We actually have some results on it to show it saved about $140,000 for both members in the district just in the 4 months for this year. The estimate that we were looking at last year was about half that, so it's been good results so far, certainly on that side.
We pay anything to be in that program?
It's basically a percent of savings, so that's a net number.
There's no cost to us.
So there's there's a savings dollar. They take a small cut of that, but otherwise it is that savings.
So given the success with that program, are there other areas, high-cost areas that we should look at, sort of where it would save the district money and not cost, not raise any out of pocket? That's for the employee.
So there's at least one other that we'll hit on here. We're aware of at least one where it's easy. I'll say that's a significant one. The other piece of it comes to play on the medical side where there's medical injectables, J-code drugs that happen inpatient. Same idea where it's these specialty drugs that are administered typically in the hospital where these manufacturers will allow for certain funds to help pay for them. There's a program that IBX or Independence Blue Cross has partnered with a vendor on where there's a additional saving that can come similar to what you see. So I'll move on from the prescription drug, talk a little bit about the renewals. And again, good segue on the Independence Blue Cross renewal. We're at the end of a 3-year, multi-year agreement that you have in place right now with Independence Blue Cross that ends here at the end of June. So leading up to that, we went out and did a market check RFP, looked at a couple other insurers who you could self-fund with, such as Aetna, Highmark, and really wanted to make sure we're hitting on 3 goals. One was making sure that we had the best kind of network access for members to go see in-network providers. The other piece was making sure that we were making sure that the fixed fees were all efficient and low cost to the district. And then the claim costs, which make up the lion's share on the medical side. Want to make sure the discounts you're getting from local providers are the best in market. So you can see here really a couple items I'll highlight. The first bullet point really becomes the one that was really kind of leveraged out of the RFP, focused on the fixed costs. Independence Blue Cross did come back as a result of the RFP and basically agreed to put into place $50,000 in credits for both 26, 27 and 27, 28. So $100,000 total is what they'll call a loyalty credit. Really just using that market leverage to drive that out. And then the second piece was some additional credits on a per year basis that really imply on putting into place programs, specifically the one program we just spoke about for specialty injectable drugs, which is estimated to save about $160,000 per year. It's about a 1% of the district's overall health cost, which for 26, 27, we're projecting about 16, 17 million. So certainly a good savings number there. That was really the main driver and result that we really saw from this RFP. The last 2 items were really just validation items. We did do that network analysis to make sure that the provider network that the members of the district were using was most favorable under Independence Blue Cross versus Aetna and Highmark. We found it was. And then additionally, we looked at the discount guarantees. So again, when members are going to use St. Luke's or Lehigh Valley Health Network, are their discounts the best with Independence Blue Cross versus the other vendors? We saw guarantees and essentially evidence that we were expecting anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 in lower claim costs versus the competitors, saying with Independence Blue Cross.
So they give better discounts than the other ones, you're saying?
Yep, so they've negotiated better, more aggressive discounts with the local providers, at least again, the providers that are being used right now. So again, certainly thought those were all good results. Recommendation here certainly was to renew and move forward with Independence Blue Cross for 7/1/26. So that's the medical piece. I'll jump to the stop loss and life insurance. And I apologize, there's a ton of information on the stop loss page here. I won't go through all of it in great detail, but just to really kind of let you know what's included here, we're doing a financial comparison to show you the differences in stop loss costs for different vendors. And again, just to remind you, stop loss basically reinsures any risk for an individual who has over a certain threshold of claims. Right now, the district has a policy in place with a $225,000 limit. So if an individual goes over that, the reinsurer takes care of that cost and the district in turn pays a premium. Where this all started out, RMTS currently, you have a $225,000 policy, and there's one individual who's kind of a known ongoing high cost claimant who they've lasered at a higher threshold, $500,000 for this current year. So your maximum liability for this current year is $1.18 million. So using that, we went out to market to see what was available. Again, the initial offer from our MTS had increases in the rates and kept the laser. So your max liability basically increased to 1.4 million, almost a 30% increase on that, or sorry, 22% increase on that max liability. While going out to market, we continue to negotiate with our MTS. Most of the vendors in the market couldn't really provide competitive renewals or offers to the district. We found that really the last several years when we've gone out, even though our MTS was coming out with a higher increase this year initially, we found that their rates had been pretty low to begin with, and so they've always been very competitive.
What about Avalon?
So Avalon's really the one vendor who did come in aggressive and close. And there's some differences between the two contracts here, but I'll point to the max liability on RMTS where they finished up. They reduced their max liability by about 300,000, and their number was within about 50,000 of Avalon's max liability. Now, Avalon's a little bit lower.
Where is that? I'm sorry.
Sorry. The max liability number here, at 1.15 versus Avalon at
So that's per person, or what is that? What is the max?
total max liability is the total cost that the district could pay for that stop loss coverage. So it's not only the premium rates, but it's any potential lasers or other aggregating specific funds that are built into the stop loss contract.
Okay.
So it's what essentially we would expect you to pay all in for the stop loss coverage. So again, what RMTS basically did was come back in and reduce their number by 300,000, partly in response to the Avalon proposal. One of the other items that isn't shown here as a financial impact immediately is the fact that if you renew with RMTS, you have a refund provision in place that allows you to receive a refund of anywhere from about $40,000 to $60,000.
Okay.
So kind of covers about the 50, but
Yeah.
again,
Just asking.
we were happy with where Avalon came in. We finally feel like we've had a competitor now who can be kind of in line with where our RMTS is, especially for future years.
Now, are these other providers not, I mean, why are they so much higher? Where would they be getting business
So
from?
I'll say, I mean, we certainly work with other vendors and we see cases where we'll go out for another group and these numbers could be flipped. It's not uncommon sometimes to see a group look at the demographics of a certain population and say, based on the demographics, the age, gender split, here's our starting number. And from there, we might reduce based on where we think your risk is. For one reason or another, you've had demographics that have kind of scared away some of the other vendors over the last couple of years. Now, again, Avalon came in close this year. I think they were pretty competitive last year, so we at least know we have another good vendor who's able to push our. Yeah. So just to really summarize on the stop loss, again, definitely felt that the result was good with having the reduction in maximum liability at 300,000 coming down from the initial offer. The other items that they did within their last offer were to improve the claim coverage basis to give you essentially more protection on the contract for runout claims. And then they also put in place a 50% rate cap and a no new lasers provision for the next renewal, basically to protect you if you had an instance where you had all of a sudden a person who was taking a $2 million per year drug that came onto the plan. They couldn't laser that person. They could only cap you at a 50% renewal. It's not uncommon now, especially stop loss. It's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. I have a trust that I work with that has a $2 million per year drug claimant who's been that way for the last 3 years. We have another trust we work with who had a one-time medical claim of $5 million. So you can see how important and how critical the stop loss coverage becomes, especially having those rate caps and no new laser provisions in place for future renewals too.
On the no new laser,
Yes.
that's only for the first year of the 3-year contract.
So this is a year-by-year contract. I'm sorry if I didn't specify that. Yeah, Independence Blue Cross is a 3-year. The stop loss really does run on a year-by-year contract, but typically once that no new lasers provision is in, most carriers do stick to that. Now I'll say if you did all of a sudden have a $2 million drug claimant, chances are they might want to remove that after that first renewal.
What is the 50% rate cap for the renewal? What,
So that basically says the rates would go up by no more than 50%. So
but we can,
it's
we're
why
bidding
it's-
it out anyway, so then,
Sorry, what'd you say?
we're bidding it out anyway in a year, so.
Sure. Yep. But again, in the event you had that, let's play devil's advocate and say you had that $2 million
Yeah.
drug claimant, they wouldn't be able to laser that person and they'd be stuck at a 50% rate cap. Probably everyone else on that page would say, no, we're not going to bid on this. Can't compete with that because your rates only go up by 50%. They won't even be able to cover the cost of that $2 million drug. So it gives you that worst case scenario protection. Last item then I'll touch on is the life insurance. Really just a quick note here. This is again up for renewal. This is with Equitable Life Insurance. You did have, unfortunately, over the last 12 to 18 months, we saw, I think, 3 life claims hit the district. So unfortunately, it also drives out a higher increase when we go through this type of process at renewal. Where the life insurance started was a 22% increase to the rates. We worked with them to essentially negotiate that down to a 9% increase. It ends up being about an extra $7,000 per year in premium. Again, given where that kind of the life claims that we've recently seen are, we recommend renewing with Equitable under the current policy.
What's our spend on that for that cost?
Spend is about, I want to say 80,000, like in the neighborhood of $80,000 per year.
Per year?
Yes.
So it's 9% on 80.
Yeah,
That's
it's
helpful.
good. It's a good question. I mean,
Helpful
you
to know.
scale these things down. When we're talking medical, we're talking 60
Yeah,
million.
9%
When we
is
get to
huge.
this, we're inside of 100.
Okay.
And is that, do we know what our average has been for the last couple of years? What, like,
Yeah.
is 3 just seem to be this is really high for this one year? Or like, are we trending up that we should look at doing other, I don't know, like wellness programs or support programs for the employees?
It's tough to say. Life insurance is a little bit different than medical, where you can sometimes see that immediate result from something like wellness or support or improved health, just because of how sporadic life claims can hit. I think when we looked at your experience prior to these 18 months, we maybe saw 1 or 2 over the last 5 years. So to give you an idea, like that's just the more frequent claims we've seen recently. Now again, certainly hope that calms down, settles down over the foreseeable future, but that's kind of what we saw.
I have some more questions back on the GLPs.
Sure.
So what would be indications that would mandate insurance to pay for it? Because they're definitely researching this in more areas. And weight loss seems to be the easy target, but we all know that obesity has a domino effect on most people's health. So what if it gets approved for things like preventing dementia, other autoimmune diseases, because it helps the brain not have that inflammatory reaction? They're finding it's helpful in rheumatoid arthritis, other sort of like autoimmune diseases, potential Parkinson's indications, dementia, Alzheimer's. If and when those sort of indications get approved, when does it stop being like a lifestyle prescription?
absolutely.
Is it
So it's
only obesity is the only
so-
one we consider lifestyle?
So you're right. It really becomes, and the crux of that idea is the fact that take for instance diabetes.
Mhm.
We've talked about this before. Diabetes falls under what's called the essential health benefits. Under the ACA, you're mandated to have coverage for essential health benefits. Anti-obesity has been seen more of that lifestyle drug where you can exclude coverage for lifestyle medicines, and it wouldn't break that idea of not covering essential health benefits. As you see more and more of these indications, like the ones you spoke about certainly are more in the realm of essential health benefits. So if you see those type of indications come by, these drugs would still be permitted for those type of indications. Right now, when we've seen carriers address this, again, it's been, if they exclude it for the lifestyle, it's been obesity. And again, certain conditions like sleep apnea has been approved, but it's sleep apnea caused by obesity. So the interpretation has been, it's still treating the obesity. So that's still really a lifestyle piece. I think there are MASH is another condition that I think Wegovy or Zepbound has been approved for. That is not a lifestyle condition.
Right.
So I have a group that excludes these for lifestyle drugs. But members who have the MASH condition are still able to have Zepbound or Wegovy there. So again, as there become more and more indications of this, it wouldn't be surprising to see that kind of broken into, it's excluded for the lifestyle ones, but it's still allowed for the essential health benefits.
And is preventative care ever considered essential health? Like if they're finding it helps dementia, Alzheimer's, like those sort of things, which aren't really like, you don't want to, I feel like once you're diagnosed,
Sure.
it's left the doc.
Yeah, I think it would have to really be an FDA, true FDA indication for it. So you're right. I think if the FDA came out and said this does prevent something like this, I could see a new designation potentially. But right now, really, it all relies on how the FDA sets up that indication.
And what about like addiction?
I think so,
Finding it's
yes,
helpful.
probably a similar idea there, because you're right, there are studies that have started to show that. It really is going to lean heavily on however the FDA kind of determines what the indication truly can be used for. So that essentially you can't I'll put it this way. The drug wouldn't be allowed to be used in an off-label situation to say, there's been studies that show it's good for this, and the doctor might say, let's try this drug since your plan covers it. But if it isn't indicated for that,
Right.
then again, under the rules of the plan, it would be structured.
And I think I asked her too, but like just a roll up of all of our lifestyle drugs on the cost, and I'd like to see that too, not just the GLP ones. And I'll say that, like, I understand the cost and it's definitely becoming more popular. It's becoming more popular because it's effective. I feel as if there will be longer term cost savings, but we're not seeing that right now. And I do have a concern that if you're someone that this is not within reach, you're also usually in the position where the other things that can help you live a healthier lifestyle are not always in reach either. I don't want to see a gap widening between what you can afford and your health, especially for our staff.
That's a big pharma issue. That's not a Pennridge issue, though.
Well,
Right? I mean,
but it's,
big pharma
we
needs
live
to
it.
stop taking, but big pharma needs to stop taking advantage of the U.S. citizen with these outrageous drug costs. That's a much bigger issue than a local Pennridge issue.
right. But I feel like there's a kind of stigma with like preventative health sort of things that are seen as a luxury when we know they work. And so big pharma or not, like I agree it's a big pharma issue, but it's where we are. We can't change big pharma, but we can speak about how we want to treat our staff and how we want to treat them fairly.
Any other questions? Otherwise, that was all I had.
I don't think, sorry, late question here. Could you go back to the slide with the GLP ones again? I think a question that I am Googling over here and would like some insight on, I don't know if you have it or not, is we have Wegovy I don't know how to say the second one, Saxenda,
Saxenda, yep.
and Zepbound. And we see an increase in Wegovy and Zepbound. Tremendous increase in Wegovy. A still notable but significantly smaller than Wegovy increase in Zepbound. And one in Saxenda. And just from what I'm Googling, and I never just trust what I Google, so I would rather have an expert say something. Why is it skewed so heavily that way? Why is it skewed so heavily towards Wegovy over the other two when all of them are considered highly effective?
So I can give you a little insight at least on the Wegovy versus Zepbound. So part of that is controlled a little bit under the formulary that CVS has a preferred version of the drug. So Wegovy is the preferred version of the drug from both, I think, a cost and clinical standpoint, according to CVS. So when members go on this drug, it's typically the first drug that they would try. If Wegovy doesn't take for them, they still have the option to move to Zepbound, so you still see some utilization there. But you can see it's certainly lessened here in 25, 26. Saxenda, I can say, was the version of these drugs that was around a long time ago. It was one of the first ones really in the marketplace before the Wegovys and Zepbound came. So you can see you go back to 22, 23, there's a lot more prevalence of it. I think you've seen people start to move towards Wegovy and Zepbound just because they've been more effective, as I understand it. And again, I talked about that retatrutide, I believe it is. That's the next one. It's a triple agonist, whereas Wegovy and Zepbound are double agonists. And I think there's better clinical results. So if that becomes kind of the next mapping point here, you might see the migration towards that as well.
How's that priced?
Probably going to be priced pretty similar to these
Double.
ones. We haven't seen it yet, but every time we're like, oh, maybe it'll be lower. It ends up.
I think a good part of this conversation would be what Leah has talked about a couple of times now, is we see the cost of these, but I would love to know if the rising cost in this is offset any lower cost elsewhere. Because we all know very well that anti-obesity, people losing weight, getting to a more sustainable weight, has tremendous impacts on their health. And if we're talking about our staff, we're talking about our teachers, we're talking about the people who come here and, do the work. So if it's something that's then going to further improve their life and allow them to do the work better, I mean, it's not a singular conversation. We need to have like a holistic conversation about it and understand if that is being offset somewhere else. I don't think the discussion is, well, how dare these people be jumping onto these, miracle drugs as they're being touted? Because why wouldn't you? It's covered under your insurance. Why wouldn't you? They're not doing anything wrong in trying to seek care for something that otherwise has been out of their control. It's not like they're just throwing candy on Halloween. You have to go through a doctor to get these. So, sorry, I didn't mean soapbox there. What I'm trying to get to is I would like to see the whole conversation of, where else does this show up? Does this show up positively in another way?
I'll say too, at least, as these drugs become prominent and as they become popular in the market, we do see more kind of marketplace vendors stepping in, because one of the big things that happened in the last year was these direct to consumer pricing of these drugs went from a very high number due to political pressures down to something much more affordable, where members who don't have this covered under health insurance can now get these scripts for $200 or $300 per month, which is part of the outrage of the insurance companies charging $1,200 a month. So I think there are vendors who are trying to step in and say, can we take advantage of some of that pricing to still deliver this to members, through other means, basically, that wouldn't hit that high bottom line.
I'd be interested in.
Could I ask, so slide number 4 in the presentation, one of the early ones that talks about the total medical and prescription, that would kind of show if we're seeing a return on these medications versus our cost of healthcare, right? And it doesn't look like yet we're really seeing that.
So it could. I'll say there's so much that could impact some of these numbers, and one or two high payments could throw things off one direction or another. But I'll say it this way: there's definitely more study, more deeper dives that can be done onto the impact of these drugs, especially knowing how they haven't been around many years and how we have a lot of data to start looking at as years go on here. But again, I think that continues to be the $1 million question. I'd make the statement that I certainly think that those drugs reduce medical costs for members who are on them who lose weight. The question is it offsetting what is being spent up front on those drugs? That's really, again, that $1 million question. If these drugs were $10 a month, we wouldn't be having this conversation because it'd just be different value.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'd be interested in more data on that too.
Any other questions? Right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you all.
All right, so next up on the agenda, we have 2 job descriptions for review. First is the coordinator, and then we have an instructional coach of special education.
Okay.
It felt like this was a completely new job description. Sort of like rewriting, and I felt like it's a brand new job.
So for the instructional coach, this is really just a change in title for a person already in the position. It's the same salary, but a change in title and some of the job requirements as that has shifted over time. This person, we're changing. Also, you can see the changes in the qualifications for this position, who they report to, and some of the key factors and functions as they are reflected with the change in the MTSS process as it's been introduced in the district. So they'll play a large role in supporting this. And part of this, as the coordinator of student services in MTSS, they're going to be a critical link in terms of a general ed and special education and how those supports are provided at a multi-tiered level across our buildings and grade levels. So the job description had to change to reflect the change in new systems and processes that are being brought in the district.
Yes.
Yeah,
It is.
I guess that was my like. I kind of felt like, why aren't we just new job description?
I think it's because it was the same person.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Kind of morphed into it over time too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Anybody else have questions? Anybody have any questions on the department appointment? Then
No.
All right.
Nope.
All right. Moving right along is the May dashboard.
So with the dashboard, obviously the information and the sections of the dashboard continue to be the same over the course of the year, reflecting our open and fill positions. I do want to make some adjustments to this over the summer. So going back to our personnel committee to really look at this and decide what it is information that you would prefer to see and the manner in which you'd like it presented. So it becomes more of a discussion with us and what's going on in human resources rather than just more of a data dump in your direction. So
Thank you very much.
yeah, I can tell you that right now we have 34 active job postings, the bulk of which are for support staff. We continue to search for aides, drivers, so on and so forth. So we are looking at, with some changes in how we're staffing our AS3 classrooms and some other specialized programs in special education. There'll be some additional postings that go up later this week, looking for more teaching assistants and our PCAs as well. And it's a very fluid, the other thing here is this is a very fluid system as we have, again, resignation I was notified of today. So that's not reflected in here, obviously. So we'll have a posting for that as well. But overall, I do want to say too that from this past year moving into next year, through the collaboration of cabinet and administration, working both with administrators at a building level as well as our directors, we are right around 10 positions less for next year overall. Okay.
10 positions or what?
District-wide, a combination of faculty and staff.
That's this year or for next?
That's moving into next year, will be 10 less. Yes. So,
Good target.
yeah. And we continue to look at what is the most efficient and effective use of staff overall across the continuum.
We'll work with the committee.
Yeah.
Let's see, on this dashboard, and then Andy and I will work together to
Mhm.
make that happen for our August meeting, I guess, for next school year.
Mhm.
Seems so far away, but I guess it really isn't.
Oh, it's going to get here quick.
Well, that's what I didn't, never really was a fan of this. And I was gonna say something tonight, but you beat me to it. What would be your key measurements that to show how you're doing and how the school are doing? What do you think would be on this type of I don't want to call it a dashboard, but what kind of things can you measure to see how we're doing as a district and how HR is doing?
Well, I would say it would start with our onboarding, interviewing, the exit process, what data we can glean from exit interviews that I could, offer employees as they're going out. So it allows us to then provide feedback to specific departments and to cabinet overall. I would say the timeliness of our postings and the return on how quickly we are able to get someone into those positions. Now, sometimes professional staff, it comes back to if they're somewhere else, they can be held. The other things that we've been working on changing and addressing moving into next year would be the process from the time somebody accepts a position till they start, making sure that we have everything in place, accounted for, salaries are correct, seniority is correct, all of those other things. I think there's actually several metrics that we can use to gauge the overall effectiveness of how human resources is functioning. And there are some things I was going to talk about in terms of our summer work and moving into next year. Some other things that would be, I think, very important and timely to report out on at these committee meetings as well.
Yeah, I still would like to see how we're doing with resignations.
Yes.
Over time.
Yep.
It shows a metric of how we're doing as a company or as a business.
Absolutely.
We're losing people left and right, you're not doing something.
Correct.
That's part of it.
Mhm.
I think it will.
2 years.
Yeah, we're gonna get this revised. All right,
Thank
anything
you.
else on the
I
dashboard?
love the energy you're bringing to this position.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it.
I'm sure a lot of people would like me to calm down a little bit, but that's probably
Yeah.
not going to happen anytime soon.
Next up, we have some maintenance stipends.
Yeah, so these are, Mr. Bramble has submitted these and this is an annual report of the stipends.
This is money that's already allotted in the budget. You come up with you break it up into credits, and then I get 2 credits, you get 1 credit, and then based on that, it's divided out. And that's how we
Yeah, there's different, in the document, it goes into it, there's different multipliers that are determined by how it's applicable to who. It breaks down by the number of people that qualify for it, the stipend. I believe this year it differs from last year only by 1 person, which is why the individual stipend payout is lower going into this year than it was the year prior.
The rest of the clue, right? Okay, yeah, right. Don't get that.
And these are the certifications that they got to qualify for the stipend.
Yes. Yeah, so they all hold licensure certifications to be qualified
For the stipend.
Yes.
This is above and beyond. What they don't,
Some yes, some it's part of their job description for them to maintain.
They only get this stipend if it's part of their.
So they get the stipend and it goes towards them maintaining the licensure, the license accreditation.
Any other questions? HR up there.
Okay, so we have been working with the team over the last few weeks on top of the normal day-to-day operations and looking at what our summer is going to look like in regard to projects, systems, things that need to be addressed moving into next school year, and things that will not only begin this summer, but also continue on through the duration of next year as a part of a longer project. And I'm just going to give you a few things here that we are looking at. The list is much more extensive. than what I'm about to get into. But overall, we're going to look at all the systems and nuances in human resources and how they're dynamically connected across the district. You know, human resources touches every single department. And ultimately, what human resources can do in creating an environment where people enjoy being, feel supported, feel healthy, then, you know, that translates to a better existence overall for our students in the building. So we are going to look at we're going to spend some time over this summer and we're looking at rebranding human resources for the district. So we want the perception of human resources by our faculty and by our staff to be such that we're viewed as a resource. We're not just viewed as people that occasionally or sometimes more often say no to things, but really, you know, a department that really can support people in their day-to-day activities here within the district. Along with that, we've got a couple of bigger things that we'd like to look at, such as what we can do instead of a monthly HR newsletter. You know, is there a way that we can either simplify that or make the communication coming out more effective? I think to review the newsletter right now, it's a couple clicks to get there. I think 2 or 3. You know, and then how many people actually get from the beginning to the end? You know, I'm not so sure. But we also want to create a push over the summer into next year as to what sort of mental health supports and initiatives we can provide for our adults across every department in the district. So, and that's going to take some time looking at what are some of the needs, getting some feedback from our faculty and staff as to what are some of the things that if we could offer, what would they like, and how we could support mental health across our district for the adults next year. We're also going to look at improving our interview process overall, and with that, continuing to look at improving our onboarding and exit. I would like to, over the course of a year, start to work on, I did this as a high school principal and a director of education at one point, but I think there is a very effective use for this and human resources, which is creating a profile of a Pennridge employee. So it would be something where we would sit with department heads and administration and really talk about what are the skills, the characteristics, the traits, what type of person are we looking for when we engage in the interview process. So it kind of takes the shift away from pre-canned questions with standard answers that most people could study for in Google to really digging into the type and quality and caliber of a person that we're hiring in the district. And those people that we want to put in front of our students here. So we're also going to look at our faculty and staff evaluation process, forms, improving those. So there's, we're improving that feedback loop for our employees overall as well. And then again, addressing our substitute pool and how we're more effectively utilizing our substitutes across our 11 buildings. So those are just some of the projects that we're working on. You know, there are many, many more, but those really are the bigger, more impactful ones at this point. And that's all I have, Mr. Schrager.
Thank you. Next Personnel Committee, tentatively scheduled for Monday, September 14th.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, welcome to the finance meeting. Start out with public comment. According to policy number 903, public comment on matters of concern, official action or deliberation is limited to 3 minutes. It should be directed to the entire school board following the announcement of your name and municipality. Under this policy, the presiding officer has the authority to warn or stop a public commenter when the violation of this policy occurs. First up is Kim Bedelian.
Good evening, Kim Bedelian, Percy Borough. I've been following the budget discussions closely, and I want to thank the board members and Mr. Daubert for your efforts over the past several months to address the district's budget challenges. I'm exhausted just reviewing the PowerPoint slides, so I can imagine what's going on behind the scenes. At the May 11th meeting, the board voted 5-3 to move forward with a proposed budget that includes a tax increase. Less than a year ago, Pennridge residents experienced a 3.65% tax increase, and now another 3% increase is being considered. Some have suggested that the district's current situation is the result of 8 years without tax increases. However, as Board President Ron Wers recently stated in his statement, prior boards did not raise taxes because the district was financially stable at that time. Responsible boards don't raise taxes when it's not necessary to do so. Those are my words. Mr. Daubert has presented several budget proposals, but those proposals naturally reflect the administration's perspective. As elected representatives of the community, I am asking this board to ensure that taxpayers' interests are equally represented in the discussion. Enrollment has declined to the point where the district anticipates closing a middle school next year. Has the administration provided the board with detailed data showing that current staffing levels, both instructional and non-instructional, are aligned with that reduced enrollment? Salaries and benefits account for approximately 71% of the budget. Before asking taxpayers to pay more, shouldn't we fully examine the district's largest expense? I have requested information regarding teacher-to-student ratios, as well as the ratio of administrators and directors to both teachers and students. To date, I have not received that information. Has the board been given the data necessary to determine whether staffing levels have been appropriately right-sized and whether administrative staffing is justified? The board has also discussed early retirement incentives. Have those options been fully explored? Has the district examined opportunities to reduce healthcare and prescription costs, including the $1.3 million spent this year on weight loss medications? I will say that I did use my numbers from April from the presentation, and it was 1.2. 100 individuals, now it's 140. So in 2 months, we've increased 100,040 individuals. Finally, the district reduced its debt, generating significant annual savings, and that debt will be fully paid off by 2030. Have temporary measures been considered to bridge the current budget gap rather than imposing a tax increase that will remain long after the debt is retired? Have you exhausted your investigation of steps to stopgap measures? I thank you for your time and consideration.
Jen Liverman. Bob, you're the last one.
Good evening. Bob Sellers, East Rock Hill. I want to first thank you. You did such a great job honoring my neighbor and my friend, Bruce Weichel. And I was just really felt really good the way you did such a great job. We bought hay and he bought hay from him for many years for our animals. Bruce was a man of God. He loved God. He loved his family. He loved farming, and he loved students. And it wasn't about the money for Bruce. And for many in our community, Bruce's family, long-term family of farming, he would actually help students that really had trouble focusing in the classroom. And he brought them to his farm and just showed them the basics of hard work with your hands, with animals, of where your food came from. And he exemplifies what a Pennridge resident in this community stands for. So I want to thank you. We're at the finance meeting. This is the business, right? So I recognize private versus public. And Ron, I specifically know in the private sector, you were an owner of a company. And if you were presented with what's going on right now, you'd have to make some really tough decisions. You'd have to take decisions about personnel, restructuring, reducing redundancies, all those things. And they're hard decisions. Well, that's what this board has to do. Kim and others really brought the facts of detail. I'm going to do more of an overview. Here's the bottom line. The bottom line is your enrollment's decreasing, and you have very high compensated administrators that have great compensation. They have great medical programs, and they have great investments for retirement. You know, there's 38% of our Pennridge community. They're not even seeing the value of the market. But in here, a lot of these administrators are getting great gains from that. I would just look at, let's say, is it common sense if you make 250,000? What's wrong with taking a 20% cut to 200,000? Many are making 150,000 plus. 20%. What's wrong with maybe making 120,000 until we get to the point where we are debt free? So I just want to thank you for the hard job that you have, and I appreciate the Pennridge honoring my good friend. Thank you.
All right, move on to the athletic department presentation.
Folks, how are you? Happy to be back here to talk about some proposed changes we need to consider for the 26-27 school year. Our first is our current contract with Campus Close is expiring at the end of June. So we put an RFP out to companies across the nation to see if they were interested in not only giving us great deals on Under Armour products and equipment, but what kind of rebates they could offer us to help with some of our expenses in the athletic department. So as you can see, BSN is one of the other larger companies that wants to get involved here with us. So our current contract with Campus Close, they're looking for a renewal. It'll be a 5-year agreement where they would give us this 12% of coaches' products from Under Armour. It's important to note that we currently cannot use the Under Armour promo dollars on uniforms or any other equipment items. It's specifically for maybe expanding the Under Armour brand. So we get, any of our new employees to the building, we try to get them some of this apparel. We can use that to maybe give back to some kids in other capacities, like T-shirts or whatnot. But it's really limiting in what we can do from an Under Armour perspective. But we do outfit anybody, our game helpers, some of our coaches, to give them a professional appearance when they're out there representing the community with some of the money that we're getting currently from Campus Close. They do have some other nice incentives. If you win a state championship, you get a warm-up jacket, which is really nice. It's a really hard feat, so this is not something that happens on a regular basis. Seems like it with our soccer program, but it's not a regular habit here. We do get some coaches that receive Coach of the Year honors or Athlete of the Year honors, and those kids are rewarded with a warm-up jacket, which looks really nice. They do not charge us for art and the screen printing. There's no shipping on any of the textiles because they usually will drive it up in one of their vans because they are local. But some of the equipment purchases that we do make through Campus Close, we are charged freight on. And they do give us the first year, sorry for excluding this, they give you a $5,000 rebate to use for more branding. And then additionally, every year, another $3,000 to help with some of your branding. So your backdrops, some like banner flags like we just got in a class gift from our recent graduates, things like that to help really improve the appearance of your campus. So when people come in for signing days or people here for games, there's ways to really see and enhance your brand. BSN wants to come in with the similar terms of the contract. They want to try to, BSN it has a larger footprint in athletics across the country, and they want to get in not just for your uniforms and apparel, but also for your equipment purchases. They'll give you a similar early signing bonus. They don't give you back as much in terms of the apparel that you're going to be able to put on your staff, but they will give you a significant discount on some of the items that we are going to purchase from the school side. And then they'll also, in addition to this, something that wasn't offered with the in the additional rebates that you saw from Campus Close is for every dollar spent by the school district towards athletic equipment, balls, nets, cages, like anything that's necessary for play, and any items that our booster clubs are buying through spirit stores and team stores, they are going to give, depending on what you spend, anywhere from 4 to 8% back. That money we can use for kids. So that was one thing that I thought was really appealing from an athletic director standpoint. You give me an email from a company that says, hey, you have $5,000 that you have to spend at retail price on Under Armour products, and you outfit you outfit some new coaches, people come in, new employees, we were able to use that money to pay that. This additional money could ultimately be used to purchase equipment that we could use for our middle school program. So I was using, for an example, we bought portable mounds or some L screens or some safety equipment that we would use for baseball and softball with our middle school programs. Instead of having to use budget money, now we could go into their catalog and use this rebate money to help offset some of our expenses that are even at the high school level for any of the equipment that they do offer. So there's a nice little balance there where you might not get as much in your promo, but you get some money to use back. And it gives, for me as an athletic director, it gives me more money to spend on kids and still maintain some of the money that we're spending on our staff. So in this deal, and one of the newer options, because of the size of BSN as a company and their capacity to hold a larger inventory, when you do a team store through some of one of the smaller companies, it's open for a couple weeks. You make a purchase, and it closes for 3 weeks for production. It gets delivered to the school. So you're looking at like 6 weeks from time of payment to receiving the item. Their inventory is so large with BSN that 2 days after you've made the order, it's ready to be shipped and sent to you in a rapid fulfillment process that's new. They're trying to mirror themselves almost like an Amazon. Like, clicked on it, you wanted a sweatshirt for water polo, you buy the water polo sweatshirt. 2 days later, you get a notification that it's going to ship to your house directly.
Shipping free for them too?
The shipping is not free for them, but the rebate that you're going to get back in probably, the shipping is only really free on the textiles. So any equipment that you order from a Campus Close or any of the other manufacturers, you're paying the freight on it. So Campus Close just happens to be fairly local. So if you order jerseys, they drop them off in the boxes. The freight's really not as big as an expense as it seems on the textiles. We're still paying freight on the larger equipment items that need big trucks to bring things in.
So if you're saying like equipment, is this also for like elementary? Because or is it just like bulk?
We would use it for all athletics.
It would be for
Yeah.
also, like,
So the more you spend, like not just from a district standpoint, but the booster clubs, if they're all using the same company to spend their money on sweatshirts all the way down to other equipment, we get that percentage back. So if we spend, say, $100,000 across all of our programs, middle school and high school, we would get that 8% rebate back to spend on equipment in future budget cycles. So over time, it allows us to offset some of the costs that we're seeing in our budget now. When I reached out to teams and said, hey, what do we need to be successful, effective? What are you missing in your program? Or what are some things that are outdated that we need to replace so that we make sure kids are in the safest possible, using the safest, most up-to-date equipment for the sports that they're interested in.
What is our total budget for this? What we're spending under here for this year?
Right now, they're averaging from a school uniform standpoint, from high school and middle school, it's about $50,000 in uniforms
For the whole school?
for all secondary.
Okay, so we're talking a contract that's about 50,000 a year?
Right, just from the school standpoint. That doesn't include anything from the booster stand.
Right, they're buying it separate, but you get a better rebate from that.
They'll include their purchases.
So
in
how
our
do you
rebate.
compare your pricing to, you have 3 of them now, right? You have three different people bidding this, or?
No, the 2 people that came in with the best rebate offers for us were BSN and Campus Close.
Campus Close is
So
2.
Campus Close is.
So Under Armour isn't,
Under Armour's comes with them, whoever it is.
oh, okay.
So Under Armour's still going to be our brand
understand.
because it would cost
Yeah.
even more money to, like, if we wanted to move to
Right.
Adidas or a Nike.
So how do you know you're getting a better deal? I don't see any, it's hard for me to judge which is the better deal.
I think the rebate here is the better part of the deal. I think you get a lot of the similar offerings in terms of your signing bonuses and getting things to improve your brand if you wanted to buy some new backdrops. But the rebate money here was the thing that stood out to me, is now it gives money back to the school that we can use in purchasing towards the kids. From a pricing standpoint, it might be $1 or $2 off, depending on whatever they have in their inventory.
So you're recommending BSN Sports?
Yeah, BSN would be my recommendation because I feel it's tough because Campus Close has been a part of the last 10 years here, and they're a great company. Their customer service is wonderful, but when I started and they would tell me about the rebates and the promo, I'm like, great, can I put that towards these middle school basketball uniforms? And they're like, well, no, you have to use it towards like polos and hoodies and stuff like
They
that. Like,
change that if we kept them, or
that's Under Armour's process. Under Armour wants their brand out there. They don't want to offset the money that you're spending on uniforms. So what BSN is offering, the same, not as much money from a branding standpoint, but they're giving you a rebate back to spend on other equipment that you're going to be able to purchase out of their catalog.
Campus does not, just gives you a 3,000.
Yes.
So that's, what if you spend 50,000, talking about half of them. You're gonna get about 8% is what you're saying?
Percent is probably the target if you have all of our programs.
$4,000.
In addition
50.
to their so it's $8,000 back to spend if you spend $100,000.
If you spend it,
Yeah, so the more you spend,
the more you
higher
spend, you're
percentage you get back.
gonna get a bigger.
The lower you spend, the less they give you back.
But you'll pay the same price for the uniforms?
Yes.
So that's,
And then they'll give us discounts on on our uniform purchases. It's 40% discount.
what does campus give you a discount on?
35%, 40%.
So they give you a less of a discount?
Yeah.
It's hard to
Right.
read all this and understand.
Yeah, it's
Like you could,
it's the line of the BSN contract is in there. Campus Close just said, here's a renewal form for what they were offering.
but do
And
they know they're in danger of losing?
They do. I told them that
Okay.
we were presenting, and I told them, I said, look, I think it's up to the board to make their decision if they want to go stay with the product that they've been working with and the company they've been working with who's been reliable and provided, or if they want to
So
explore
they
new
didn't give
options.
you another offer after you told them they were gonna lose it? Or,
No, he went back and referenced what he went back and referenced what he offered in his original plan, like, well, we won't charge for shipping on textiles, and we won't charge for artwork.
Is the $50,000 not for sports and also gym equipment?
This would be for all athletic equipment. So the athletics and PE are separate. The PE people don't use the athletic equipment, and the athletics don't use the PE equipment.
So this isn't then PE?
This doesn't have anything curricular. This would be all extracurricular. We could purchase through them. I could explore that. We could even ask if our PE team wants to purchase through them.
So
for
where
their
do they
equipment.
purchase their things from?
They probably use, I haven't taught phys ed in a long time, but I can't remember the catalogs that they would use from, but there's different catalogs, Rogers and,
Well, catalogs, and it's not something.
no, they,
as streamlined as this.
yeah, their budgets are much smaller too from an equipment standpoint, because they don't purchase as much over time.
What's occasionally? Yeah, we use BSN occasionally for.
Yeah, BSN has been
Okay.
used by, we've
How's their
been using
service?
BSN for equipment for years.
Okay.
Just because they're the largest team outfitter in the country.
they're not
They're not
completely
foreign to
new
us. Like,
company.
no,
Some schools have to use
they're
them.
very familiar with our. They've worked with us in the past. The Campus Close has been, they're specific to uniforms and anything that is Under Armour related. So BSN,
Sorry, go ahead.
so BSN would take over that Under Armour role, and also be our number one provider for equipment.
And this uniform costs $50 for Campus Close, it still is $50 for this.
Yes.
And is it-
We're not going to, oh my God, now it's $75.
Right, that's what I
No.
was gonna say, and also the platform, because Campus Close is a very easy platform.
It is, and
Is that also?
it's the same platforms for building uniforms and pricing out. So all of that stuff is built through Under Armour. They control that. These are the team outfitters that just, the rep would change from the Campus Close rep to the BSN rep.
Like
Still-
all of the spirit wear stuff that all the school PTOs sell that would come through.
They could, if we pushed them all through BSN, then all that money would come back to us. In terms of 8% rebate.
What's the life cycle on uniforms?
It depends on the use.
Yeah.
You know, like there's some sports where you're using a home and an away, like baseball uniforms get beat up pretty bad. Football uniforms get beat up really bad just because of the nature of the sport. Other sports where you have like a highly successful team, like your soccer programs, like those uniforms get pretty tattered. We're required to wear white uniforms, which I feel like is like just it's awful because they're just like white shorts are brown in about 12 games. But that's the life cycle. We usually do a 5-year rotation. So every 5 years. You need,
Any other questions or?
Yeah, so you said the district typically spends about 50.
that's what they're putting in from a uniform purchase standpoint. Yeah, about 50.
The boosters.
This is plus the boosters is plus.
Do you have numbers on what the boosters?
I do not. I do not. I could ask them from Campus Close, but
The
my
boosters would be teammates buying their own stuff, right?
right. So they would create a team
Plus
store.
their parents.
But if we push our boosters to use their purchasing through BSN would then give us
So there's an upside.
there's an upside to it.
That's exactly what
Okay.
Right.
trying to get
And their
to that.
turnaround time
Is better.
is much better. So if we had somebody who missed it or
Okay.
somebody who joins the team late, they can still jump in and get involved and have things delivered to the house within a week.
So if a booster club is using it, will they, whatever they're purchasing, would they be able to get that percentage back? Or it doesn't go back to them?
They can use their they can use their team stores as fundraisers if they like. So if a sweatshirt costs $24 and you put 25 in there, they get $1 back for every sweatshirt that
The
they
percentage back that's given back, is that just given back to the district? Not
that's
to-
given back to
Not
that
to
comes
the
back to us in a rebate to use towards other equipment.
Back to the booster. Okay, so
Yeah.
it goes back to
it comes
you,
back to
not
us.
to the booster.
Yes.
Or to whoever, okay.
Right. They upcharge their stores to make money on the spirit wear that they're selling.
Oh, they could.
Where we wouldn't do that. Like if we had a team store for athletics, we would have it open. It would be everything at cost because we're not using it as a fundraiser. We're using it just to have something that
team.
people needed to get something.
Like when you open it up to like the staff and to the community, that's not upcharged.
Yeah, not from athletics, but if it's the pickleball team,
Right, not
they
that, right.
because they're using it as a fundraiser. We wouldn't do it in a fundraising capacity.
Okay.
All right. So that's the recommendation on Team Outfitter.
Okay.
Any other questions? The next one is our concussion management. I worked a lot in my previous employment with the Brain Steps team at the IU, and a lot of schools were currently using the impact solution system, where you're staring at a computer and you're using reaction time and you're using memorization to pass a baseline test for your cognitive function should you experience a brain injury or disease. Since we've migrated to one-to-one and we've kind of eliminated computer labs, our consistency in gathering this information has changed. So they were sending it home, and then we're finding out that you're getting, parents taking a test for their kids, so it's not an accurate baseline. And we're only getting about 200 of the 1,000 licenses that we're using for our impact solutions. And I believe, and I'm probably wrong, but I believe our athletic trainer, Brian, who's been here for 13 years, in the last 10 years, he said he's had 2 requests for the information using through the impact solutions for a follow-up test. And the kids are coming back and they're functioning properly on this. It's an antiquated system. You go to Sway. Sway is a newer system. It takes a shorter amount of time, but it also factors in like things like balance and your reaction time instead of just memorizing words, dots, and move things around. And you can do it in a larger setting with teams without being restricted to a computer lab. So we're not sending information home for kids to do the baseline testing. They show up, the athletic trainer says, great, here's a tablet, you have your phone, take this out, scan this code. This will take 5 to 7 minutes. We can get a baseline. The benefit also is that the SWAY program allows us to have a diagnostic tool to use at the game. So we fear that there's a kid with a brain injury and it just don't seem right. We're like, hey, you know what? We're going to verify this with this diagnostic tool, and it's going to help us gauge your balance and your reception to the environment in that moment, instead of having to go back and jump on a computer to see if you can, remember dots and colors and whatnot.
This tool just costs $1,300 a year.
It costs $1,300 a year, and we would test right now we're using about 200 tests are being completed by kids, because our largest number of test takers is happening in the summer, and the kids have all just turned their laptops in, right? So now we want to move to a 7, 9, 11 model, and potentially do any new athlete, obviously, who's playing a collision sport. We wouldn't want to have them tested, but we can do that right there on their phones with our athletic training team.
And is it unlimited amount of tests, the 1,300, or like?
That's the licenses that you would get. You would get about 400 plus licenses So if you're testing your 7th grade football players, your 9th grade football players, which is your higher number of kids, and your 11th grade football players, because most of your atrophy happens after that, you're getting the biggest number of our participants, and you're capturing their score over the lifetime of their participation from middle school to high school. And that way, if we do need it, if a doctor does come back to us and say, hey, do you have any baseline scores for them? We have it. And if we have the diagnostic tools just to help verify what our fears are in a game setting.
So it won't be more than 1,300.
No, this would be their price. This is the quote that they sent to us when we asked them what it would cost.
And the accuracy is it's the same too.
It's actually probably better because it's using more reactive senses instead of memorization.
Okay.
So a lot of the times when you're like being in this job, you've seen, kids experience concussions, like sometimes they're giving you the word tests, like they're saying, like, say monkey, popsicle, banana, fruit snacks backwards. And you're like I couldn't even do that. I feel like I'm fine right now. Right. So they're asking, this one is actually using like a digital display. So you're going to be able to see what's happening with your eyes. Cause a lot of times tracking is the first sign you see, or you're going to see some memory loss or just like confusion here that this is all going to verify in real-time setting and not having to go back to a computer, test the kids when we're trying to get them off of screens when they're dealing with brain injuries, right? All right, and then, so that's just the price comparison. It'd be my recommendation to go to Sway. I know that Sarah Cruzen from the Brain Steps teams at the IU, when I was at Central Bucks, we moved into this direction and she was excited, and the feedback from their athletic training staff and the athletic directors there, it's like, it's so much easier, so much more consistent, and we don't have to worry about that it was mom that took the test when we sent the information.
Good.
All right, and then the last one is really just a procedural thing here that I think is coming down from the PIAA is partnered with Hometown Ticketing. We currently use MSB tickets, which is a break off from My School Bucks. Just wanted to consider, like, MSB is not as commonly used as Hometown because it's not a PIAA partner. So if you come to Pennridge, you're using My School Bucks to buy a ticket digitally if you don't have the cash, or if you're filling out the link in advance. And it's a little bit cumbersome to use because it's not as clean as the My School Bucks that you might use at a concession stand, or the kids put their number in to get something like they would at the snack stand. So it's they're the same company, but they're separate platforms. And this one has become, I found has been a little bit cumbersome. And I know that the sweet old ladies that we have taking tickets at the gate are, dealing with questions from angry parents who just showed up from work, who were just trying to get in to their game. There's no point of sale option through the MSB tickets. So like the Hometown ticketing you'll see in future slides offers that. And it's important to note that PA law now requires us to sell, to do cash tickets at the gate. And this platform will allow us to audit all types of sales, whether it's cash, check, or credit card, all in the same thing. So which will help our finance department not have to wait for information coming in from cash sales that we're currently doing in paper and pencil. So everything is done right there on the platforms. So again, someone shows up to a gate right now, they have to take out their phone, take out their credit card, they have to process, something that's a little bit cumbersome to use, not very user friendly. Now, if we move to Hometown Ticket, you can Apple Pay, you can buy in advance, you can pay cash, or you can insert a credit card, and the process is done right there on the spot for you. One of the benefits that, like, you'll see in later is that besides, like, us moving to this, it's also already being used at North Penn and Souderton, and the Central Bucks schools are trying to push it. So the majority of our contests are against those 5 schools. So it will give not only a better experience for people visiting Pennridge to come in and see their kids play, but also when we go to those other schools, we're already familiar with the app and have things bought in advance, where you can just scan things through their app on the QR code.
Is this also used for playoffs?
This is used for District 1 playoffs, PIAA playoffs, and I'll highlight at the end here that it'll help. Right now, we also depend on Wi-Fi and hotspots to make sure that MSB tickets happens. And if we have an overflow of spectators coming in for games, our administrators have to get in. And if they can't remember their username and password to log in, they're not useful in scanning the tickets for us. So the way that the process works is you would create a username and password for all ticket takers, and then you have an inventory of who is working. They're scanning and working different roles, and if we don't need, it's not required to have internet if people purchase in advance, or if they're paying cash sales or point of sale, everything will be logged, and when it does connect to the internet, your audit report will be created.
How do you scan the tickets when they come in?
So you use your phone or you use the iPads that come in. So people, like a lot of our ticket takers will use either one. They'll have their phone on backup if the iPads.
Still the same way. Though.
Same way.
It can be very awkward sometimes.
So hometown is the preference of our game workers because they work our games and then they go work the playoff games, and they're much happier working a playoff game. They jump at those positions because they know that it's going to be a little easier to use their platform in scanning the tickets.
Who's in charge of selling the ads on it? I saw that.
So there's no charge from the company for us to sell the ads on there. So that was one of my talking points is now we can control the sponsorship that we want to have on the tickets. It could be per team. It could be one larger platform. It could be, Dr. Barrios LLC wants to be the ticket provider. Sorry, just looking right at you.
CSN as well.
But you could ask them. You could ask these companies, and I know that the other, like I think Pennsbury did that with their program 1 year. Initially, like, hey, if you'd like to be our ticket sponsor, usually after a year, when you see, like, you'll see this is what an audit report looks like. You have cash credit, but then you get down to here, you see what your ticket sales are going to look like. Hey, for our football sponsorship, if you'd like to be a ticket sponsor, all of our home football games, your logo will be the first thing people see. So you're getting analytics that show the value in being that sponsor. So
who's gonna market that? Whose job is that to market that to?
That would fall on us. And we've had conversations about this like throughout the year, just like what are our options? How do we really build our community partners through sponsorships? Right now, like some of our contracts are a little limiting because of the exclusivity, but this is something that would like maybe be an initial expansion of that, and then long range when we look into our contracts, how do we really bring in as much revenue as we can for this with it's no charge to us. And again, these are just some visuals of the left is Easton School District's on their mobile app, so you can see the user friendliness. And to talk about theater and music, North Penn and Souderton both work with hometown ticketing so that the tickets for their graduation are all digital and they're sent to the student, and they get 5 or however many digital tickets that you want, and there no more printing paper and collecting that. It makes life a lot easier for your graduation, which is your biggest event usually each year at any school.
Sounds like a no-brainer.
Kyle Berger, whose wife is the teacher here, is the athletic director at North Penn. I was talking to him about this process. He said we sent them the student emails for all of our seniors, and 20 minutes later, they sent us, like, everything was loaded into the system based on our just listserv of student emails for all the kids in their graduate. And you can transfer them, send them to people, however you need to. So it's similar to what you're using in a box office for our professional sports.
What percentage do they take?
They take I believe it's like $1, but there's also a rebate that's offered through them too. So the number of ticket sales that you get, they give money back to the district.
Versus what do we pay now?
Right now, we don't pay anything. We don't pay anything. The consumer pays everything.
No, I mean hometown or what was the?
So the consumer MSB tickets, the consumer takes it on the fees through MSB tickets, through Ticket Spigot, to hometown. The consumer, we set the rate. They add the fees. We know what their fees are. So if we know we're selling, say we sell 50,000 tickets because we have an electric football season, then we have rebate returns that come back to them. Like, hey, they'll cut us a check for, say, $1,200, $1,500.
You said the new one takes $1 for to make money. They take $1 per ticket.
I think it's a little under $1 with MSB tickets right now.
Okay, that was my question.
So it's a little bit more on the
A little
consumer
more, but you're
end,
getting a lot better
but it's a better experience. It's easier to use.
Okay.
On the our end, and for our consumers.
Can this be used to pay for other things?
So you can see,
trips.
you can do anything you want. Any school activity that you want can be used for hometown. And when we were looking at this, when I was in Central Bucks, we were looking at if we're paying for, not there. That was above my payroll, my pay grade, but it was more like our camps and clinics that kids can sign up for. We wanted to set it all up there in a one familiar place so that people know, like, hey, I have a hometown account. I can buy a ticket to Camp Achieve. I can buy a ticket to the musical. I can buy, this one even has concessions that are available if we ultimately want to make a move to one place.
I'm sure once we get through using it, we can look to see.
Right.
Yeah,
Most of our
so,
community is familiar with it from this past season.
My School Bucks or whatever, can we get rid of that if we use this?
My School Bucks is very, very intertwined into the SIS right now. So there would be a lot of work unraveling that and changing that.
Into Power School.
Into Power School.
Oh, it's tied into Power,
Yeah.
and this does not tie into
So
Power School.
like Dr. Palmer just said, once we get through it, we can start looking at other, to go everything at once would
No,
probably
I'm
not be a
I just want to
good
make sure you're
idea.
investigating.
Yeah.
Yep.
Other
Yeah.
systems you can get rid of.
Yeah, the way we talked about it in the past was athletics maybe is separate. You start there, and if you see that it's been beneficial from a record keeping standpoint, it really gives you analytics to know, like, hey, how much food should we be buying? How much staff should we have on working these games? Historically, working with that, you're making smart decisions on
Yeah,
the
no,
way
it
you're
seems like
supporting the
good.
game. anyways. So,
Other questions? All right, thank you. Sean, are you up next?
I'm up.
Final general budget.
Okay, so tonight we have the final budget presentation for the general fund budget for 26-27. Things to look at through this presentation, we have the final numbers for the state property tax relief, status, the 26-27 budget, the financial impact of charter schools in the district. It's something we want to take a deeper dive in with the board, and then finally the path moving forward for 26-27. The homestead, farmstead, and the property tax relief numbers for 26-27, we're going to receive about $4,158,000. It's about $56,000 more than this year. Our number of homesteads have jumped up though by over 200. Farmsteads are the same. So the assessment exclusion amount is about $2,348, which equates to about a $339 reduction on the tax bill for homestead and farmstead property.
Which we do not pay for.
We do not.
The state.
State, this is the
covers.
state.
It's not a cost to us.
Correct. This is the
Make
state
sure it's-
gambling funds coming to school districts. And we have to reduce our property taxes dollar for dollar for money. And the reduction happens to the homestead, farmstead. The Act One index, what the index will allow for this year at the 3.5 mils, 3.5%, which is about 4.9 mils. Again, that would generate about $3.2 million in revenue. What we've done since our May 5th meeting, the board passed the initial budget at the May meeting. So we went in and we've increased our real estate tax line by the 3.0%, which changes the revenue line by $2,756,000. We have then reduced the transfer to capital projects fund, which was part of that budget, by $2,066,000. So that brings our total budget reductions throughout the budget process to over $7.3 million. Again, the expenditure change falls down under the 900 object, which is the $2 million reduction in capital transfer. And
So we're reducing from 5 to 3? About?
we're reducing from 6.1 to
4.4, which will cover the projected amount for, not all of it.
Yep. capital project.
Yeah, for what we previewed for 26, 27.
It will, we asked ICS to stay at $4 million or less, which they built us that project scope for next year. The additional money, and without the grant, it'll be about 3.6 million. If we
Right.
get the grant, we'll spend about 4 million. And then the grant will cover another million.
6 to go up to the 5.
We asked them to work within the confines of this and the grant. And if we get the grant, then we'll move forward with the big.
Yeah. Oh, so we won't go forward with it if we don't get the grant.
Correct. That's the way we built that. That's why you see two options there. The 3.6 million and then the over 5 million. And that's without the grant. We will not do that project at Central Middle School if we don't.
But we would need to do it the next year. Like,
We'll look at it again. We'll perhaps apply for the grant again, if it's available. And we will put that project in with prioritization of other projects within the district.
were there already things in the proposal for next year that were relying on that grant already? Like relying on that grant again? Or was that just for the boiler and such?
The 2027 summer,
Yeah,
the grant was just for the boiler system.
okay, they didn't have anything in their numbers.
No, but we're actually at a, timing wise, we're at a good spot now that we know what we want to do for the summer of 27 projects, to start looking at what grants are available for those projects. 'Cause we really have to start applying for them, like the end of summer and fall. Some of them, they have windows that they open and they close.
Right.
So now's the time to sort of look and see if we can see.
So no actions on grants have happened yet for the
So
20
when the 26-27 state budget passes, and if they grant are available for those type of projects, we will then actively pursue a grant again. If we don't get it this year, we'll be actively pursuing it again with ICS's help. As long as it's there and available in the state budget. We don't know what's going to come out of the state budget. We'll,
Look at other projects, grants are available. Look at do it. And I know this is kind of getting off topic here, but I know one that comes to mind. There's a lot of grants outside of here as well, lighting, right? And when you look at, maybe that's not a top priority, and they're aging, and maybe it's something we look and we say, hey, kind of like this boiler, if we can get the grant to do the lighting, we should do that in addition to what we already have.
Like it was one of the darker red colors.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's all red and orange. Yeah.
Well, if you can get
But it's just not
75%
warm
of
safe
it
drive.
covered, that would be nice.
Right. If there's money.
Right, I agree. If it costs us nothing,
Yeah.
we should do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. Okay. So revenue and expenditures, for the May 11th and June 8th budget balance at $165,250,509. It's a 1.28% growth rate, both revenues and expenditures year over year. Inflation is running right now somewhere between 3.5 and 3.8%. So from our district's growth against the inflation, we're doing pretty good. It shows the effort that we've made to cut $7 million of expenditures out of this budget this year. And last year we grew at 2.5%. So we've cut our growth rate almost in half from the year before.
So, how are we gonna do in 2020? 26? We got a month left, right? Where are we looking as far as how are we gonna meet our budget this year?
So for 25, 26, we're going to be about $1 million short in interest revenue. That's the one we've been talking about, that we were expecting us to be short on. Expenditures are running about 1% less than where they were the year before, which is a positive sign. So in the end, I think we're gonna be somewhere about the 1.5 to $2 million deficit.
Budget was zero. Wasn't it? Balanced budget?
Yes.
Where are we gonna find that 2 million?
It'll come from fund balance.
Which is not a long-term solution.
Correct.
So, I have a question. It's much like Dr. Doster and I are going to be working over the summer. Example, this dashboard. Ron, would you be able to work with the members of the Finance Committee, Mr. Dahlberg, and come up with some sort of, how are we gauging, right, if we're running an organization, right, we're looking at financials every month. And if we are in this strap financially, and now we're, at the end of the year, we're saying we're using $2 million of the fund balance to make up, how do we gauge over the year, throughout the year, where we are with our spending, make sure that we are controlling this?
We're taking corrective action during.
But
I agree. I mean, it's
like,
not something.
What I'm asking is if you can come up with a more standard financial review that we can look at as a board, each month, every other month, some metrics to show that we're staying on this line item, we're within budget. This line item, we're over budget. How are we going to course correct and make up that difference?
We do get a lot of that information.
Yeah, but it's not
hard, it's
not
impossible
easily-
to digest, because it's so.
I think what we're gonna be looking at to the point is to do something monthly, just so we can see that monthly.
Yeah,
so
we
that
already
can
had
look
this
at where that-
conversation.
Where that bottleneck is, and we're starting, start in August, let's start now instead of waiting till January. I think that would be the plan, so that we do have a better gauge of where we're gonna be.
I also think it's worth noting that every board meeting, if you look under the consent calendar, there's a monthly budget report. And maybe we can ask Mr. Dauber to go over that publicly each month to explain to everybody. And I know for a fact when there were budget delays last year, we talked about the impact of the interest. So now it's coming full circle. We're seeing the result of some of that. Recall there was delays in federal funding and the state budget. It costs. And if you look at countywide, it was millions of dollars of lost revenue with respect to interest on money.
I understand.
State gained. But this is one of the drivers of our expenditures here.
Then you would typically revise your budget as you go along to see. So to give some idea where you're gonna be at the end of the year. That's the way I would do it, but is to say, hey, we're short. 6 months in, you're short. 6 months, and then as a administrative group, you look at where you can find other ways to cut. Not wait till the next budget to do that. I think that's not something we do well here. Makes sense. Go ahead. Any other questions?
Making adjustments through.
Yeah. What,
I don't think
there's,
that consent calendar is it's not easy to digest. Multiple pages. Organized snapshot.
To Dr. Burgess' point, maybe having Mr. Dahlberg explain it to us in public.
That's fine.
Makes it easy to do, and more often, if we do it at a monthly rate, I think that's a good place to start. And to your point about the borrowing from the fund balance, you said it's not sustainable, I agree. It doesn't need to be though. It's not something we're gonna do forever, it just needs to be
Right,
this
well, that's,
another couple of years.
I understand, but
Okay.
we weren't gonna use, beginning of the year, we weren't gonna use 2 million out of our fund balance. Now we're gonna use more next year. The idea being, when we trim the staff, that it's gonna work itself out, but we're digging a hole that we have to make sure we're still capable of
We're already
covering
in the hole.
with fund balance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have 4 years until that starts becoming like money back in our pockets for that, which,
I mean, for the debt.
yeah, which is
It's
a
still
lot
long
of
ways.
time to build up debt, like 2 million every year, it's gone. So Mr. Dauber, in the budget, that's the attachment over here, the unassigned fund balance, does that reflect what we think we're gonna have to take out to make up for 25, 26, or is that reflect what the plan was? And so I'm actually in the budget.
Oh,
yeah. So it says like
It's not
the,
on this particular.
yeah, it's the attachment, the other attachment that's in there, the actual budget.
Got it.
It says that the unassigned fund balance is like 9.6. Is that already taking out what we need to do to make up for the deficit from this year, or
No.
no? So, okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so just to, I know we've talked about this, but I just want to make sure I'm clear on it. The unassigned fund balance isn't just, a rainy day thing. It also kind of measures that if something big would happen and we need to borrow, it would speak to what sort of monies we would have access to. Does it also impact our insurance or something too? Like I felt like there were other things that like the amount in the unassigned fund balance is used
Not
to
necessarily
like gauge.
insurance, but bond ratings, yes.
You pay more for borrowing. Which for a while we were able to keep at its maximum.
Well, just because I remember, I mean, even like our first year up here, when we still weren't raising taxes that first year too, and that, like, I feel like every year it comes up to just pull from the unassigned fund balance, and every year we have the discussion around how you don't really want to get that down to like a dangerously low amount. Like, there is a level we want to keep it to maintain security within our budget.
I think we need to define that number. What
Right,
that dangerous
yeah.
line?
I agree.
We hear percentages, but not the monetary
Right.
value of what that percentage is.
And having a plan to
Yes.
build it back up on the future, that's part of the.
I mean, if we're already down to something like
We will
7 or.
talk about unassigned fund balance a little later.
Okay, sorry,
Okay,
go
yeah,
ahead,
sorry.
Sean.
What our moves will be here at the end of this. Okay.
Thank you.
From the revenue standpoint, May 11th and June 8th, local revenues, 122 million, state revenues, 9 million. It's interesting to point out state revenues, 40.9 million is less than what the state revenues are this year. And federal revenues, budgeting them the same, about $2,066,000. Local revenue was actually less than the current year's budget until we implemented the increase in the real estate rate. Most of that loss is from the loss in interest revenue, which is $1 million in loss in interest revenue from the reduction in the interest rates in the open market.
The 120, say it's gonna be how much short? That's the interest is in there.
Interest is in, yes, in the 25, 26 budget.
What is that number gonna be for the end of the year? What are you anticipating that to be?
120 will be more around 119.
That's primarily so
Loss of
tax revenue is fairly well predicted.
tax revenue is fairly close, fairly well predicted. Our collection rate has dipped a little bit compared to previous years, but the real loss is in the interest.
How would be earned in?
Earned income tax, the last numbers that we looked at, and we have not gotten our hands on May's numbers yet. But as of April, we bumped up a little bit. We were running about 1.8, we're at 2.2. But we need to see what happened in May. Sometimes it bounces around from month to month. But last year we ran at about 1.8% increase, and this year up until last month we were running about a 1.8.
Mr. Daubert, for anyone who may be tuning in, could you go over the federal tax revenue? Why it's flat right now, why there was a drastic reduction?
Yeah, the federal numbers, you can see the actual numbers from 3.4 and 4.5 in the $4 and $3 million range. That was the ESSERS funding, which came out of the COVID pandemic. There were 3 rounds of ESSERS money starting at around 2021. There were, and third round was the biggest, and districts had about 3 years to spend that money. So we spread those dollars out, and a lot of that money went to recovery, education recovery for students, and services for students who needed those type of recovery or were harmed from the pandemic as far as learning loss and recovering that. So those dollars had to be used up to 24-25, which we did, and then we've dropped back down to about $2 million, which is our Title I, Title II, Title IV, and some IDEA, or no, not IDEA, but access funding, which is special education, federal special education funding for kids that receive medical services in schools. So those are the federal revenues, and really what we've been seeing and hearing from the federal government is cuts to those title programs, Title I, Title II. I think the budget that came out last month, first look at the next fiscal year's budget from the federal government had either somewhere around 10 or 12% cut to Title I. So Title I is our biggest of the title programs. Don't foresee much help coming from the federal side of things. And as we've talked about over and over again, we are seeing very small increases in our state funding, basic ed funding, special ed funding, and for our district, the adequacy funding is very small. Most of the state money is going to the districts that receive major adequacy supplements, and that's due to the federal or the state lawsuit, fair funding lawsuit, and the ramifications of that lawsuit is really seeing districts like Pennridge and other districts in Bucks County, most of the other districts in Bucks County seeing very, very little state funding increases year over year. And when you tag that along to a year where we lost $1 million in revenue in local revenue just because interest rates dropped, it makes it a very difficult year. It's really a triple whammy. And at the same time, when we're dealing with 3.5% inflation on the expenditure side, which we can't escape, it becomes difficult to budget and balance budget.
I mean, I know we can't say for certain, but are we more hopeful that the state funding in particular will come on time this year, or?
Hopeful.
Yeah.
Well, we can be.
There's been very few state budgets passed before June 30th in the last 10 years. Maybe 8 out of 10 were passed after June 30th. So I don't think recent history is in our favor. And it's unfortunate, even if it is passed, June 30th or July 1st, it's too late. You folks have to put a budget in place before June 30th. So we continuously fly blind trying to budget. Certainly from a state revenue standpoint. These are the final expenditures. The only difference here is in that principal payments line item, bottom right. That number dropped from 12 million down to just under 10 million. That is the reduction in the transfer to capital projects. And here's a summary. We started our budget process at about $172.6 million. Altogether, we've achieved $7.3 million in savings through budget cuts, staffing changes, staffing reductions, staffing eliminations, retirements, so forth. Get to the point where we're at current budget expenditures and revenues at $165.2 million. The budget timeline, we're here June 8th, our final finance meeting before the last budget vote, and then on June 15th, next Monday, final budget needs to be adopted, or we would ask that it be adopted. And we'd also have the resolution for the homestead farmstead exclusion, resolution setting the tax rates for the budget. Things that are still out there for us, we're worried about, we're concerned about with next year's budget, staffing and programming needs. Certainly, full-day kindergarten expansion. We will see kids register up until the final days before school starts. We will need to be ready to take care of those kids. We also see ever-changing needs in programming for special education students, students coming and going, students needing to have services elsewhere, or either in the district or outside of the district. We're also very concerned about the world events, the impact of our electricity rates, our natural gas prices, gasoline, and diesel fuel, heating oil. I think we shared at our last meeting, we used about 260,000 gallons diesel fuel, heating oil, and gasoline. Of course, we use a considerable amount of natural gas in buildings. So on the revenue side, again, we don't know what will come with the state's budget. We do have the governor's proposal included in this budget. Again, that is a very small increase in revenue. Assessed value reports, impacts on real estate tax. We continue to watch the assessed values. We're looking for for growth there. We're certainly watching for tax assessment appeals and those type of things that have an impact on our real estate values. We don't have any really big assessment appeals right now going on, which is very helpful. But there are a number of smaller ones. Homeowners seem to be filing for those more and more. And then, of course, we'll continue to monitor the collection percentages for both the real estate and the IT, as we do every month. We watch those. And then the other impact on this budget, as it was the current year budget, will be the ongoing interest rate environment. If we see another cut like we did over the last 12 months in interest rates, it will be very detrimental to us again. We've been very steady the last few months at about 3.5, 3.6. But if they go to 2.5 or 2.6, we'll lose another $1 million in interest revenue just like that. And we are limited to what we can invest in. This is where we're at right now. We wanted to take a moment and talk about charter school expenditures. This is our projection for total cost for charter school expenditures for 25-26. So there's 4 different categories. There's brick and mortar general ed, which means that a student goes to basically a brick and mortar charter school and receives general education. A brick and mortar charter school and receives special education. Cyber charter school and receive general education, or a cyber charter school and receive special education. All 4 of those have different tuition rates. They're all driven out by a state formula. Our enrollment as of May 1st, we had 26 brick and mortar general ed, 3 kids brick and mortar special ed, 88 kids in cyber general ed, and 33 kids in cyber special ed. We had 150 kids in charter schools as of May 1st. Those costs per student, the biggest is brick and mortar special education at $43,450. Cyber special ed is the next highest at $30,590, and then the general ed brick and mortar is $17,400, and the cyber special ed, or general ed, is about $16,185. You see the cost there that those tuition rates drive out is $3 million. 50 students, 10 charter schools, and they take $3 million with them to those schools.
Could you remind us what our costs for those categories of students are when they do, our regular ed, our general ed, or special ed, or our cyber academy?
So we can educate a child in our own cyber program here at Pennridge for $4,000 or $5,000 for the year.
That's what I was.
Yep. So take note, let's just take a look at the cyber there. So if my math serves me correctly, 1.42 million. And we have special education students who attend cyber, which we can certainly offer here at Pennridge. So that's $2.4 million. If you want to go to the next slide, Mr. Daubert, we will continue to ramp up our recruitment efforts, like we did last summer, to make contact with students who live within the boundaries of Pennridge to attract them to attend our own Pennridge cyber program. They can benefit from extracurricular activities, school counselor, they can attend the prom. Again, going back to extracurriculars, most importantly, receive a Pennridge diploma. We have dedicated staff here. I know I sound like an infomercial right now. We have dedicated staff, Ms. Karen Fair, and we have another wonderful individual, Mr. Bob Gumbar. We provide tutoring services in the morning. Any students needs extra help and assistance. So I beseech our public who watch these presentations to please consider Pennridge Cyber. It's an outstanding alternative and it's more economically feasible for us. And I think I would put our program up against any program in the Commonwealth as far as efficacy and executing this with fidelity program. That's so I just want to say those few remarks.
Well, Barris, I think a good point to make here is when we jump back and we look at these 150 kids, is that cyber special education kid, $30,590, right? That child leaves our district, takes $30,590 with them, but our expenditures don't reduce by $30,590.
Right.
We still have the classroom that child was in. We still have the teacher that child was in, or the teacher that child had. We still have the building costs that child was in. So very little of our costs go away when that child leaves, or any of those children leave, in any of those categories.
Right.
We still have those costs. I think that's a part that people, they don't realize that the cost doesn't walk away for us, but the money does.
And I think this may be the first time we've had public display breaking down these costs. I asked Mr. Daubert to do it for a reason, so keep talking about, it's rising costs. We've made speeches about it, but there's the actual breakdown right there for everyone's consumption.
And the other point is that these rates, cost per student rates, change every year. They go up because they're based on our budget. And as school districts' costs go up, these rates change automatically.
And there was talk last year in the legislature of capping the cyber rates. I think it was $8,000, which would have helped out substantially. But as you can see, we're looking at, for a general education student, a cost of $16,000. Had it been $8,000, like an $8,000 cap, we would be at that would have saved us $700,000 just for general education students.
Well, on that topic, we obviously need to market ourselves better. I brought this up before, but when I Google cyber charter schools from my computer at home, Pennridge doesn't come up, right? So anyone who goes to a cyber charter is going to Google, right? They're going to look for cyber charters. Why aren't we in that? Why do we not? We know our location. Why don't we put some marketing effort into, because they're going to look at all the schools they get. Now, the others are paying for it. They're going to get at the top, but our name doesn't even come up. So we're missing an opportunity here that they may not know about us. They don't listen to our board meetings, obviously, but people who are doing it are definitely getting on it. I've asked about this, and I think we should do something about it. I don't know how much it
We're-
costs.
We're exploring this. I know that there are some, with the cyber charters throughout the Commonwealth, there's been a lot of discussion about how aggressive their marketing campaigns are. For example, you go to certain athletic events and professional venues, you'll see advertisements. If you're driving on an interstate, you may see a large billboard advertising certain cyber charters. You watch TV commercials. You may see certain cyber charters advertised. So I don't know if we have the bandwidth to have or to compete, so to speak. We can look at internet SEOs and how we can market this. I don't know how many students we can actually attract with that, but it's certainly a worthwhile venture we could.
I think anyone who's looking at a cyber school is gonna get on Google and look for cybers Pennsylvania. Based on location, ours should come up if they're in this area.
As long as you don't use charter. Pennridge isn't a charter school, so you'd have to use
Yeah.
Cyber,
not
cyber
charter.
school, look, I don't know the details, but I mean, when I did cyber school, they'd come. So we're not, unless you know about it, which most people don't, they're not even gonna look at this. And we have so many advantages that we could sell to people. You're not gonna get as many people back, but you're gonna stop the other people.
This speaks really closely, though, to the heart of the core issue of the cyber charter funding. The fact is that built into that cost that they are charging our district, a significant amount of that is simply put just going to advertising in big and flashy ways.
Lobbying.
And lobbying to get laws that give preferential treatment to keep that cash flow. That is not something that we do here. What we do in public education is put that money into the hands of the people that are making an effect on students again and again and again. And so that is the core issue with this money. That is the core issue with the amount that they are overcharging us based upon what it costs to educate a child through those systems. Is that money is going towards advertising. That money is going towards extras that are not a part of educating the child.
We'll never compete in that, but we can do a few things.
I just Google searched Pennridge Cyber School. I won't name the sponsored school that came up, but we came up first.
No, but if you just Google cyber chart,
Yeah, I just
cyber.
Googled cyber schools Percy and we were like 7.
Okay.
Even
Or
cyber schools in
people,
Pennsylvania, because people don't care where the cyber.
Yes, right, yeah.
Near me.
I find the special ed numbers, right? When you look at brick and mortar, it's about 11.5%. And then you look at cyber, 37.5% of students. Who determines that they're special ed?
It's another issue that they're.
It's like they're incentivized, and I'm sure they're finding, oh, this child has this one little thing that pushes them right into that special ed category.
There is a bill in the state right now to allow the sending district to dictate whether it's, so that there's no incentive. But we're not, I mean, these aren't gonna fix our budget problems. So I don't-
Yeah, I mean, even if
Too
we
much
cut
time.
half of them, that's what, 200,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We could advertise Pennridge Cyber on our tickets, if we switch to that other ticket.
Yeah, we
system.
can.
Kind of stuff.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, are we allowed to charge, are we allowed to pay for advertising as a district? Is that even something that we legally are allowed to do?
Yes, we are allowed to do that.
We're in control
It's a
of
good question.
the goal on that.
That could be a non-starter. I just think,
There was a law, it was 2 budgets ago. I think it came through as part of the budget, maybe 3, where school districts now annually and charter schools annually have to report their expenditures for advertising. Most of our advertising is legal ads that we have to put in for board meetings or bids or whatever. We're not buying billboards and commercials and radio ads and stuff like that.
One of those tickets that we're selling to the games and the graduations, put it right on the back, it's free. Theoretically.
Yeah, we can certainly find ways to advertise through our means, through our schools, signage at our schools. Those are all things. But I don't know that we want to advertise to everyone, hey, let's all go online.
That's right. We don't want to push
No, but if someone is looking for a cyber charter, we should be there because they already have the idea. They're not looking for, this isn't going to steer them away from it. They're already looking. So I don't see why that would do something. Anyway.
So this next slide just gives you a look at the enrollment, going back to really, we were impacted during COVID, our charter school. Dipped back down, around about 150 right now. You can see the total cost there, each year.
So that price goes up every year.
Absolutely. The price goes up every year because cost per student goes up every year.
Yeah, same as our budget goes up, 10%.
Automatic increase just because the budget goes up. That's all I have.
Any questions?
It's a couple things, like, because I agree, like, whatever we can do with the charter school to stop money coming out of our pockets is helpful. But I do think, this is our third time going through a budget. And we do get a lot of warnings from Mr. Dahlberg that I think we have to listen to. Interest rates, cost of supplies, those are big factors in like $1 million shifts in this budget in either direction. And lately, supplies, the direction's been up, and interest, it's been coming down, which makes that a bigger gap. We have for a couple years straight been going like really lean on equipment, supplies, with the warning that we are going to eventually have to pay for it. So usually after 2 years of that, we have to pay for it. Like that doesn't go away. We haven't been able to sustain that sort of like delaying buying buses, delaying buying things for more than 2 years straight until it becomes a problem. And so there is the right sizing. I think all of us are very aware of that. And, I feel like our staff is aware of that too. But I feel like this is very different from the business in the sense that, like, if you're a business that's struggling, you can make cuts, you can produce less, you can do things. These students, this is their one and only opportunity in education, and there is a balance for the education quality that we don't want to dip below. We don't get to kick students out. Even with the numbers going down, there's still needs that they have here and expectations that we want to give for education. So I don't know, I guess that was just all I had to say. Like, I don't think we all live here too, and no one's happy with a tax increase, but I feel like it's been discussed almost every year that we're delaying the inevitable with a lot of the things we're doing. We're just pushing things off, and eventually it becomes a matter of we can't push them off any longer. And still have inflation, like cost of things have not gone down since the 1950s. This is forever going up. That doesn't go away. I agree that the ESSERs were applied appropriately. It was meant to help out the community at a time when prices were being driven up at a drastic rate with like the pandemic, et cetera. It was used exactly like it should have been to help ease some of that burden from the community who are also feeling those rising costs. But those costs have not come down. And now that money's gone and that gap is just bigger. So, yeah, I mean, there are probably things we could do on a monthly basis to see how we're doing against our budget. I do think that's really important to see how we're measuring, but I also think I feel like it makes a lot of sense why we're where we are. Regardless of right-sizing staff, I don't know if that's going to keep pace with the direction everything else is going and the pace that those things are moving.
I agree. I think compared to the other districts in the county that I'm seeing, I think you've done a really good job of putting us in a very good position comparatively. So I really appreciate that, but the concerns are still big, you know, and the relief doesn't look like it's coming.
Other comments? Well, I look at it a little bit differently, but last year we had a lot, we missed by 2 million and lost 2 million, we're losing 2 million this year. And to me, that amplifies the problem in the future where we have to continue now to find ways to reduce costs. And I'd like to see it redone as far as the 3-year projection, so we kind of see where we're at. Because we don't think we can just raise taxes to get out of this problem. Even we looked at that and it doesn't add up enough. So I think we have to look at everything from administration to other things and find ways to cut costs. And I think it's a continuously ongoing process. And one of the things that I use in our business is we ask the staff where they could save money. And we got all sorts of ideas. And we would compensate them if they saved us money. We found, and sometimes you just have to ask the average person where the waste is because they see it every day. So these are other ideas that I think we need to focus on because this is not going to solve itself through tax increases, and we certainly don't want to do it or even try to do it that way. With the number of students that are shrinking, we have to be able to do it for less cost than what we're doing it for before.
I think Dr. Bowman shown us with some of the savings that she's come on her own.
Yeah, I mean, there's opportunities. I think she's done an excellent job in finding ways that we could save money. I think everybody needs to do more on that. That prevents this budget where we can then afford to buy the buses again and we can afford to build up our surplus for reserves. But I'm not convinced that what we're doing now is going to be enough.
I'm more concerned that straight up tax rate, permanent solution to a temporary problem. The deficit will go away.
Well, that is
will happen by 29-30 school year.
It's just 4 million. That's not enough to fill this gap either.
I understand.
So it's past that point.
So are we going to talk about reducing the tax rate after 29-30?
Well, our expenses are still going to be growing at 3% a year based on our salaries. So those numbers are.
But if the population keeps going down and down and down.
School, well,
that's what I mean. The school population, yeah.
We'll have to make other hard choices too.
I don't remember ever hearing about tax rates going up and coming back down again.
No, I didn't.
It's like inflation.
They go
No,
up and
you're
they
right.
stay there. So
You're right.
there's no reason to set that baseline unnecessarily.
That's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, I feel like it's the balance right now that again, none of us want to keep raising taxes every year. I am worried that the things that are out of our control are just moving at a faster rate than we can move staff. Even with enrollment going down, that we know that doesn't translate to like, okay, then we can cut a program or we can cut this class because it has to be enrollment going down in one grade in one building, like it. To Sean's point, even when we lose kids to the charter programs, that cost is still there because we don't shut a classroom down because a kid left. And so it's not parallel movement. I mean, we are talking, we all continue to talk about the things like what we were talking about with South and everything like that. A head count is going to be the fastest way to get money back in this budget. That's given no matter where you are. But again, in my career, headcount reduction, okay, there's like a drug you don't develop. There's things you just stop doing. And that's where the balance, because I know we all really care about the education of the kids and things too. Yeah. And so I think there's wiggle room in there. I agree that there is some movement that we can make, but I can't imagine how it'll be big enough to make up for the widening gap. I would love to see it make a turn, like that would be amazing, but I think Sean's put in the difficult position of trying to be realistic, not scare people and be like, well, I think this is going here. And we're hopeful every year about like money that's going to be coming in from different agencies, interest rates, et cetera. And we're seeing right now that like a couple years of that really not going in the direction we need, the hole we're in almost immediately. So not only would I like to see us not increasing taxes, but I would also like to see us have much more of a buffer so that a couple years like this wouldn't put things so close to the edge.
Problem is, we already have people that are scared, that don't have wiggle room financially.
Yeah.
Income, fixed income,
Yeah,
single income. There's
absolutely.
people that are scared. They don't have that wiggle room.
Yeah. I mean, there's staff who are in that same position too. Like I agree. I think,
We have to understand that.
yeah, well, that's what taxes imply for everyone, you know, and it's not like always just a matter of what you can afford. It's also sometimes a matter of like where you want your money to, like there's a lot of ways people feel about taxes. But I do agree that we definitely don't want to put people in dire straits within the community, but the spread out across the community is what we're trying to do. Like small pieces across the community can really have an impact on keeping things with our students moving. You're right. It's a decision of what we want to invest in.
Well, to me, it's a trade-off of raising taxes and saving money. The more we can save, so we have to raise taxes. We can't control these other things. We'd love to be able to control the cyber thing. We can't. These are things that were baked in and we got to live with it, unfortunately. Right. So the more money we save, the less we have to raise taxes.
That's where the grants come in. Tom and I are working.
Yeah,
That's another piece of it.
That's-
It's certainly awesome. Anything we can do in that is, there's a,
Oh.
so I agree with
projects that we can actually start working on.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be huge. We really appreciate it. That was actually a question I had too. We had a public commenter the last meeting talking about the Pennridge Education Foundation. Remind me again how that, because aren't there ways that we can have local businesses say they want their state tax money to go to a Pennridge Education Foundation that could conceivably come to us? Am I totally misunderstanding that? Like a way that
TC.
Yeah, ITC.
yeah.
There is the ITC, but I believe the ITC is limited to state level.
Oh, okay. They
We can look.
limited.
Is that what the PAC group was talking about? Yeah.
What's that, Lee Rush?
Like I mean, even just ways that like the community
Can we have someone look into that so we get the answer?
I mean, I don't know how much of an impact it would be, but if there's businesses in the community who are like, I'd like to see some of my state
There's
taxes.
definitely,
What they're talking about right now is the ITC here.
Well, he mentioned that. I don't want to take up time with this
Right.
because it's someone who
Something to
knows, find the facts about it and let us know. Because it's,
I mean, I don't know enough even about what E EITC is.
nobody.
if I can go back to,
Okay, sorry.
as I listened to some of our board members share opinions, and the last time we had an enrollment study was in 2017. And those projections were almost 100% accurate. I think there were 1 or 2 years where they were slightly skewed, and Dr. Palmer went over that at our last student services meeting. So, and then in 2020, you have the pandemic occur, and perhaps, I don't know why, I know every month I get an enrollment report, and I can see. Now, when I arrived here, something we did and the board approved was an enrollment study, taking a look at capacity. Large systems changes, though, take time, as you can see. So we have a proposal right now to consolidate middle schools, and we've costed it out what we believe the savings will become. I also remain optimistic with some of the development that's occurring in our township and within our school district. So we have 2 over 55 communities. I read about one this past weekend in the Bucks County Herald that was approved. An additional one, the Toll Brothers, is going, I believe there's 72 units or 78 maybe. all these numbers that we're talking about. I'm a little punch drunk, but so we have 2 over 55 communities that will be going in. So that means no students will be attending schools, unfortunately, but that will be a nice revenue stream. So I don't want us to paint a doom and gloom that we're going to be, and I believe with the cuts that we're making, we're taking a look at attrition. I think I'm trying to have an optimistic outlook for all of us and taking a look at every position. Do we need to replace that person? Can we take a look at teacher certifications and reassign folks? I know that we're definitely taking a look at all positions and then when we do hire folks, that we're not hiring people that are at the top of the pay scale, that we're hiring people that are, and I know that we're not having trouble attracting applicants to this school district. People want to come work here, especially people right out of college. So trying to keep kind of like an optimistic outlook here as well and it's a balancing act. And it's not fun for us to ask for additional revenue. I do know that in last month, Mr. Daubert showed an array of other school districts that didn't raise taxes for a number of years, and they find themselves in a similar financial situation that we're in right now as well. And I think when you do a comparison, and that's why I asked Mr. Daubert last month to show comparisons to the county of what's occurring in other school districts, there are other districts that are going above the Act 1 index because of several reasons and have to balance their budgets. And I'm not going to name any of those districts by name, but so we have our work cut out for us, for sure, to continue plugging away. And all of it's very complicated because as Ms. Rash pointed out, we're dealing with students here where we're bound by federal law, state law, board policies. We're seeing more students from early intervention programs entering Pennridge with an IEP. And we have to be compliant with the law and meet that child's needs. Some of our placements are $100,000. $100,000. It's more than to go to Harvard. But we have to provide appropriate services for that child that may have significant needs. And that's just the way that child was born. And we have to, by law, provide the best service possible. So if that's your kid, we want to make sure that we're providing the absolute best opportunity in the least restrictive environment for that child. So we have a lot of work to do. I know that some of it, I'm picking up the pieces of what happened past COVID and decisions, but I'm doing my best to make, Mr. Daubert is, give the board decisions. We're seeking feedback from our school board. Back in my review this morning, in my evaluation, to continue to take a look at our financials, our metrics, and what we can do. I know this board is committed to making the appropriate corrections. But sometimes that takes a little bit of time. And that's why we have a plan with South Middle Street. And hopefully that will see some cost savings. And hopefully with the development that's coming in, us continuing to evaluate all positions. When we do hire folks, making sure that we're hiring at an entry-level person rather than hiring a teacher that's already at the top of the pay scale, and just taking a look at all these different things. So
just a fun fact, our retirement expenditure, which is 100% mandated by the state government, $24.5 million. So when you talk about things that we have to pay, there's no way around it.
We're
We
stuck.
can't control. That's a big number.
It is. But every district has that too.
Yep, everybody.
It goes back to having to project a 3-year plan, 3-year budget, at least that long, and looking at, I don't think we did that enough, but we identified a problem that we could see years out that this was going to happen, and now we're doing something about it now, which is great. But when we're doing the year-to-year thing, then we can miss out and see what's really happening in the future. And I think I'd like to see how some of these ideas that we're planning on saving are going to pay off in the future. You know, you're talking about people leaving the district and we getting lower priced. Well, how much is that gonna save? Like, somewhere we have to get the numbers to kind of add up to where we're balancing the budget again. I know, I'm not complaining at all. I think you guys are doing really well in what we're doing. I think there's more we can do, but I just want to see more ideas and then see how those numbers work out so we can say in 3 years, hey, we're not 5 million short, like we were 2 million. And it's a complex assignment, but I think it's something where we need to understand. We have all these great ideas of how to save money. What does it add up to? You know, when we replace a teacher with a fresh out of grad, that might be 100,000 a year. Okay. How many of those are we going to have? And then that type of thing. I think that's an exercise worth doing so we don't come down the road in 3 years and find out that we're still way off. Anything else? It's late enough. So, any other questions? Thank you. Thank you very much. You're still up, so
Yeah, don't go
but
anywhere.
you don't have to stand in front of the podium and
Sit down.
please do.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can go.
Yeah, you guys, it's fine. Yeah, you want me? Right out the store. That's why you
have
don't have to
a-
like sneak
Do you
out
have
the
a
back.
pass? Do you have a pass?
Yeah.
You gonna
That's all online now.
pass? Too many people go. Thank you for coming. All right, thanks.
Right, now let's talk about it.
There's everybody else at home.
Let's talk about everything.
Okay, so number 3, we just went over the final general fund budget. Number 4, levying of taxes, which would include the 1% earned income tax, the 0.5% real estate transfer tax, and the $5 local service tax. That's exactly the way it is every year. Those tax rates don't change.
We can't vote on increasing them either.
Correct. You know, I guess we could try, but we're not gonna.
Probably not gonna go too far.
Number 5 will be what we talked about earlier, the 2026 homestead and farmstead exclusion resolution, which will have those numbers on that we went over on the slide. And then also each year we set the installment dates. They're the same each year. So if a taxpayer wants to pay over 3 installments, they would pay 1/3 by August 31st, 1/3 by October 31st, and 1/3 by December 15th. And if they do that, they do not get the discount. They have to pay at the face value. Okay, so number 7, we were talking about fund balance. So commitment of fund balance at the end of 25-26. So at the end of, before the end of June each year, the board, before it knows what its final numbers are for the year, has to vote as to what it wants to commit as its fund balances. So what we have been doing in the past, as you know, we've had this PSERS fund, and as we've used unassigned fund balance, we've pulled money from the PSERS fund down to the unassigned fund balance, or as our budget grew in years that we had surpluses, which means that your unassigned fund balance can grow because it's 8% of your budget. So we were pulling money from the committed PSERS commitment to the unassigned so that we stayed at 8% of the fund balance. So what my presumption is that we would transfer the PSERS committed fund balance in the amount of $2,700,957 to the unassigned fund balance for a total then of $12,735,848, which is 7.71% of the 26-27 general fund budget. And then the PSERS fund balance, committed fund balance, would be 0. So it would all
You're
then
using out of the rest of it.
So it will all be moved to unassigned.
So it's gone now.
The PSERS committed fund balance would be gone. It would all be in the unassigned fund.
We've drained that,
Yes.
basically
Mhm.
covering the shortfall.
Yep, correct.
So you're not really eating into the unassigned, you had this
Eating into
extra
committed.
fund.
Mhm. Yes, and that money, committed fund balance, was set aside years ago for rainy day fund.
We did,
Lack of a better
which
term.
one? The PSERS, or what was that created for?
It was created before I arrived, and it was there when I arrived, and it was there for future PSERS increase cost.
which we funded ourselves.
which we funded through the budget ourselves
So this was like a rainy day fund for the Peasers in case it went up, but we never used it for
in
that.
case it spiked dramatically.
Right.
And we've never
And
used
we've been drawing it down over the last, mostly for fund balance,
Yes.
covering up other, yeah.
So we were moving it down as the budget grew
Yeah.
to maintain the 8%. And then really this move down is to cover the loss from last year.
Didn't it kind of hide the fact that we're really draining our assigned fund balance and because we would report that we're fine, right? But we were pulling down this other
Well, you can see when you look at our fund balances, you'll see
total is
total
is still.
yeah, total is going down. It's really not hiding it. It's just it's moving it to the unassigned. The grand total fund balance is dropping.
Yeah.
Yep, and we saw that in our audit report.
Our committed funds just hanging out there.
There are no other
The
funds
only other
like this,
committed
right?
funds are in the capital projects fund.
This was kind of like a bonus fund
No, it's.
created years ago. No, well, it's gone.
If you didn't ask, I was gonna.
No, it's a valid, it's been a lot of confusion of that over the years and it's gone now, so we don't have to worry about it.
But that's been making up for like this year, the $2 million.
Last year
right?
too. and
Right,
year-
that's, now we really need to.
It was created for an emergency and
It's probably created around 2008.
It's like
Would be
having
my guess.
when
when
it
Caesars.
spiked. Yeah.
We're out of it now.
So in the final general fund budget, the attachment one that we're looking at. There it says total estimated committed, assigned, unassigned fund balance reserve is 10.7 million. And then we're adding 2.7 million to that. It's the last page.
Last page.
Yeah, or if I could very well be looking in the wrong section and I'm just. Just make sure I'm understanding it the right way. Did you find what I'm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On page 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the non-spendable, and in here we should have committed at 0. And did you work this year's deficit into this number? Okay. Yes. Yes. So I misspoke.
Okay.
Dan does have it built in
Here, and
already.
then we're adding this action item one here is to add the.
Yep.
Okay,
Yes. Thank you, Dan.
but still that would make it like 13.4 million. If I'm doing that. Because it says 10.7, or were we still just guessing on what the deficit would be even when you did this? Like, was it
So
a different
Dan's
number?
assumption is the deficit, he's worked the deficit into this.
Yeah,
This number I have right here does not have the deficit. worked in.
Okay.
That's why it's high.
got it.
Mr. Doriso's on the ball. Oh, yes.
At 9:30 at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
9:50. Oh, we lose track of
All
time.
right, I'm good. We can keep.
Okay.
Sorry.
My eyes are getting.
So the next item,
Next, you're done with 7?
yes. I'm done with
The next one is a resolution calling for increased state funding.
Yeah, so.
Does anyone have any comments?
Sure, yeah, I'll talk this for a little bit. I did,
Surprise.
Yeah.
I asked
You
that
put it
we-
on there.
That I get this on the agenda for tonight and then hopefully, get consensus, hopefully from everyone, not just the majority, to move this forward and have Pennridge sign this resolution and send it off to our state senators and state reps. I think it's a vital, it's not the only thing we need to be doing, but I think it's a vital place or a vital piece of the puzzle for the future of our district, right? I think we talked a lot tonight about things we have to maintain, and by doing this resolution isn't like we're washing our hands and saying, state, federal government, you guys figure this out. We still have our own
due diligence that we need to do here. You know, I've mentioned before that I think we're, you know, facing the perfect storm. And I think we can grumble about local taxes. It's easy, and we can point the finger at local leadership. You know, and I think it misses by pointing the finger back at the local leadership. I think it kind of misses the real culprit, right? Our administration has been working incredibly hard to tighten our fiscal belt, and through a lot of that effort, they've been able to achieve over the $7.3 million in savings. We started off. Work is essential and it must continue. Necessary supplement to our local financial efforts. We're facing a systemic funding crisis at the state level, and that, quite frankly, is punishing our local taxpayers. The reality is this: Pennsylvania ranks 6th worst in the nation for forcing local taxpayers to fund public education. This means that taxpayers across the state are carrying the burden for more than 52% of the cost of public education, 89% of the cost of career and technical training, and underfunding special education by billions. And those numbers are coming out of the resolution. So in my view, I think the state has failed to uphold its constitutional promise, maintain a thorough and efficient system, and has created a massive structural trap that we have to dig ourselves out of, right? I want to sort of take some of those numbers in the resolution, break them down, what it means to Pennridge locally. Thank you, Mr. Dahlberg, for putting this together pretty quickly. You know, I think the failure most clearly is the underfunding of special education. Since 2009, the state mandated costs for special education have exploded in Pennridge, right? We've seen an increase of $16 million or 102% increase at Pennridge. Yet at Pennridge, we've only received an estimated $1 million more in funding during the same time period, or just under 23% additional funding, while our expenses have gone up 102%. When you add up the costs of state mandates for the pensions, special education, charter school tuition, locally Pennridge sees a $26 million gap, while the state revenue intended to help pay for those costs has only increased at Pennridge by $11 million. There's still a $15 million gap that doesn't just disappear, right? This falls directly onto the shoulders of our local taxpayers. We're also seeing the strain in charter school costs. We are projected to pay over $3 million, as Mr. Dahlberg just showed us, in charter school tuition this year alone. And if the state would simply implement a sensible $8,000 cap on cyber tuition, although I guess we could argue if $8,000 is still sensible or not, Pennridge would save almost $1 million right there. Think about it, right? That's $1 million that can help close our budget gap. Stayed right here in our own classroom to support our students. We're doing our part locally, but we cannot do it alone. This resolution is a formal demand for adequacy funding and a fair funding formula that provides sustained state support for our infrastructure and our special education needs. To our community, whichever camera I should look at, right? We need your voice. I'm urging every resident to reach out to your state senator and representatives. Tell them about the burden this is placing on local property owners. Tell them they must prioritize public education in Harrisburg. Our students deserve a high-quality education, and our taxpayers deserve state government that pays its fair share. Let's work together to ensure Pennridge remains proud, principled, and prepared. If we get consensus, I would be very happy. Bring this up for a formal vote at the next week at our board meeting. Get it signed, get it sent off before they start voting on passing the budget. I believe there's also in this that we'll talk about if the budget doesn't pass in so many days, we would ask if it's after 60 days there's still no budget, but they would still pass it. I think
A lot of states have that.
Yeah, tens
A lot
of
of
thousands
states
of
have that.
dollars. I think that we lost. Was it $40,000 that we lost in interest because it's just the delay of the funds coming through? Anybody has any questions?
I thank you for putting this together. I'll be honest, I didn't read it terribly
I did
closely, so
not- I will
apologize.
say I did not put this together.
Oh, okay, well,
This
bringing it
came to
forward
us. Yeah,
then,
this
yeah.
was through the day of advocacy with the Pennsylvania School Board Association. This is kind of what they put together.
I think in the ask, like, so it speaks about the charter school cost in the one, but it doesn't really mention it in any of the asks. the end around capping or doing something to address the rising cost of charter schools. I don't know if we, am I missing it?
I know we talked about it.
I mean, I'm just looking at the last paragraph, but they speak about it, like they speak about the cost of it in the one, one of the whereases.
Should certainly.
Should be bold, you're right.
Should be certainly.
I just didn't know if we wanted that to be a formal ask around like addressing the cost of charters.
Yeah,
It's part of the form.
I think specifically with special education, because as we've heard, it's continuing to go up, and I think even with declining student populations, we're still seeing an increase in special education, which really cancels that savings out when you're losing population, in my opinion. So yeah, I think it would be good.
You want to add
mention
something?
that.
That is in there, I think.
But
Still,
overall, thank
we can do
you.
better than the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to insurance renewal quotes.
Okay, so insurance renewal. I have renewal quotes from our broker Willis Towers for CM Regent, general liability, crime, auto liability, and boiler and machinery. $776,717 with a $5,000 deductible. Last year, $724,000. CM Regent commercial umbrella liability.
Wait, well, hold on a second. So how does he get the best price for you? Your broker?
So there's two main players in school districts in Pennsylvania, CM Regent and Utica.
That's it?
Yep. And we have,
They don't talk to each other, do they? Little collusion.
School insurance.
yeah.
So he gets both of them?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Um,
Broker fee for,
so the CM Regent commercial umbrella, 45,304. The school leaders liability, 81,664. Letter D, the Chubb Group cyber liability, this number came in today. It's 55,297. It jumped because of a claim we had. Iron Shore pollution liability coverage, 18,655. And the student sports accident insurance, 36,750.
same price, wow.
Yeah. The E actually went down a little bit, and F is the same price. What's really driving insurance for school districts is the value, property values, replacement values. So as inflation is driving upwards, driving the cost of goods and materials up, the replacement value goes up. And the biggest part of our insurance is our values of replacement. So if we lost our buildings, what would it cost to replace? So our values went up from, excuse me, they went up from 471 million to 497 million. So we're being priced in 497 million.
That's the reason for the $50,000.
That would be in the first line item. The other thing that's driving the insurance market is the reinsurance market, which is being driven by natural disasters and across the country. So those are the two factors that we've learned, Dan and I have learned in our meetings with our broker of what's driving our costs. Is that as inflation continues to go up and the cost of replacement value, the replacement values continue to go up, our premiums will continue.
Oh, I see the same thing.
Yeah. So all in all, for all these, our expiring contract this year is about, actual cost was 954,000. We budgeted $1,058,000 in the 26-27 budget, and the renewal has come in at $1,014,000. So we're within what we put in the budget.
I just want to make sure it was competitive. Well, we'd have more choices besides two.
We don't have, they looked at, like I said, they looked at Utica. Their final pricing isn't in yet, but they want to raise our deductibles. We carry a 5,000 deductible on our property and our package program. They want to raise our deductible, double it to 10,000, and at the high school building, if anything, it's 25,000. So I'm a little eerie about raising deductibles.
It depends, yeah. I understand that. I mean,
If it's a really big, if it's a really big savings, but if
well,
it's-
yeah, if it's a big saving, because, if it's $1 million loss, you lose out at 25,000 versus 5,000. It's not a big deal. But if you're got like 20 claims at $30,000, then it depends what your history is like.
and we have a lot of, our biggest amount of claims are our buses. Our deductible there is $1,000.
Oh, wow.
And their deductible is higher. They
Yeah.
tend.
Well, when you look at what your activity, it seems like you're
Yeah.
going with the best one.
So it's the really scares me with fixing the buses.
Do we have a lot of claims every year?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's probably our biggest area of claims.
What buses?
For number of buses.
Oh, okay. So that's covered under
for number of claims.
That's covered under this first policy?
Yes.
Okay. It's more.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with a $1,000 deductible.
That's nice.
Okay.
Great. Other questions?
And I have asked them, I will say this, I have asked them between now and when we meet again to go back to CM Region and ask for lower cost.
Good.
Because I just told them, go back and tell them we have competition and
Yeah.
the lower.
Tell them we got a lower price from the other guy.
Right.
I don't know.
That's
Talking. No, you're not.
okay.
Actually, the same representative.
Yeah. He just turns scared.
Got a business to be in.
Can I jump into contracts?
Yeah,
now?
please.
We have a lot of contracts. The first contract is Judge Healthcare. This is for personal care and teaching assistants. We use Judge for substitutes, or if we can't fill a position that we're special ed for an aid or that we have to have, then we'll go to the third party. And then the prices are as shown in the attachment in the contract. There's different prices for different positions. Letter B is Bucksmont Academy. For 3 special education slots, it's $263.57 per day, and last year was $225.27. We've reduced our Bucksmont Academy slots. Mr. Johnson talked about that, where he actually reduced that in half, I think, for next year, the slots there. Letter C is the Vanguard School. This is for extended school year for a couple of our students that are already there at that school, and it's $9,133 and $13,015 for those 2 students. D is also Vanguard. This is for services for the next school year, 26-27, for 2 students, 2026 35 and 36, and the cost there is $95,200. E is Learnwell. Learnwell is the company that does the educational services for our students that are in medical facilities. $61.55 per hour, and we usually have a few of these each month. We'll learn. Letter F is a settlement agreement. Student identified as 2026-41. Letter G, UHS of Doylestown, which is Foundations Behavioral Health. This is for next school year, August through August. And Appendix A is the rates. And then we would just need this services if we need to place students there. H is the Campbell School. We have a student there, and this is for that student's extended school year program. Student 2026-41, cost $7,666. I, Dr. Daniel Eggleston, he reviews our IEPs. We had him for the first time this year, 25, 20, 26, and we want to renew him for next year, 26, 27, $200, which is the per hour, which is the same as last year. Next is an ongoing contract. This is a sponsored agreement for the district's nutritional service department to provide meals to Bucksmont Academy. I think this will be the third year that we've done that, and we usually service those meals out of the South Middle School kitchen, and then they pick them up and take them to Bucksmont Academy. Letter K, Power School, license for school messenger, May of 26 through August of 27. This comes with $50,494. This is the Engage Suite for Power School, the school messenger commute, and the school messenger safe arrival.
What was it last year?
Don't have a number there for last year on that. See if we can find that.
Interesting.
I'll make a note. Yeah. Okay. Letter L, Dr. Lewis is our school dentist. Student dental exams for $35. No change from previous year. And I believe Dr. Lewis has been doing this for this rate since I arrived 11 years ago.
Same, I was thinking.
He's truly all about the kids.
Kids, yeah. That's
Yes, yep. And we thank him for that. Letter M, St. Luke's Physicians Group. This is medical coverage for our home football games, scrimmages for next school year, $150 per home game. Moving on, we have letter N, Concord Theatricals. This is for the high school fall performance for next year. Cost is $1,559. Then letter O, Music Theater International Central Middle School spring performance for next year, $984. Talking Points is translation services. We're going to use title funds for this. This is $6,316 for next school year. Letter Q, Scholastic Book Fairs for the elementary schools listed in the fall of 2026. There's one elementary school not listed, which is West Rock, and they decided not to do it. The report we got. Letter R, the IU, Technology Pool Consortium Agreement, 26-27. Each district shares to not exceed $880 of the total cost. Total cost $11,413, and each district will and CTC will not pay an amount not to exceed $880. So, and we use that pool consortium each. S is Newsla Incorporated. This is formative secondary online subscription for math and science. $15,000. Last year was $16,000. Letter T, FMX. FMX is our building use subscription fee and schedule star integration. For 26-27, it's $12,463. And this is our facility management software where all facility use goes into this program. We used to have School Dude, and about 2 years ago we switched to FMX for a much a decent savings, multiple $1,000 savings. Letter U, Disney theatrical sales, South Middle School field trip to see The Lion King in October of 2026, $8,400 is the estimate at this time. The actual cost will be determined by how many kids go on the trip. And then the last contract is our Bucks County Community College MOU for our dual enrollment program for next school year. That's no cost to the district.
Are all the kids, or is a certain grade going to going to the Lion King?
For eighth grade music students who have participated in music all 3 years.
Do they,
according to
they can't afford it, or are they still able to go? It says student paid.
Yeah, we have some programs in the district that make sure that kids that are needy still
everybody.
get to participate, yes.
Is West Rock Hill doing a different type of book fair?
I don't
or-
know the answer to that. Yeah, the email we got just said that they
Yeah, find out.
decided not to do the Scholastic book.
Yeah, item past the newsletter. That for students, what is? Teachers to use?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said.
Item S, Alzella. Resource for teachers, resource for students. They're using it at 3 middle schools. High school. It's just like the invoice.
Yeah. That's okay. You just let us know what they.
Products and services, formative. Angela's formative.
Formative assessments.
It's an assessment.
Yeah.
This is an assessment for math and science. Yeah. Thank you, Ann. That's it for contract.
Did we do?
Still bids. Let's keep going.
Still got a couple pages. All right, this is June. June is always the worst month for finance. We have, the next section I have is bid results. The letter A is our bid 27-100 for technology education supplies. What we have is a bid sheet. We'll list all the items and the companies. And then we have a summary on the agenda of the companies and how much each company was awarded, which matches the yellow highlights. So instead of actually reading every one of these to you, I'm
Thank
just going to move through these and you can call me with questions. So we have,
These are low bid ones, right?
these are the low bids. Yep. Then we have B, bid 27-101, which is wood shop supplies, 3 companies. Bid 27-102, lumber supplies, again, 3 companies. The popular one, 27-103, is art supplies, a whole slew of companies with awards. And then bid 27-104, instruments, 3 companies with winning bids on that one. The next group I have for you is student activity accounts. So these are renewals and carryover requests from the student activity accounts at both North Middle School and the high school. We will bring the Central and South to you as we get them. We'll probably bring them to you in August because we didn't have those ready or don't have them in-house yet. These come from the principals. Mr. DeRiso reviews them, signs off on them, and then they make their way to the board for review. So renew basically means that they're asking to renew their club, their student activity account. And there's a second request for carryover if they're asking to take more than 25% of what their balance is or what they've earned through the year over to the next year. And a lot of times there's good reasons for that, like the class account, where a class is going from the junior year to the senior year or whatever year, they take their money with them. And a lot of times they're building for their junior and senior year for their proms. So that's usually the reason why we're carrying a lot of money over, or more than 25%.
That's what the carry.
So we have letters A through Z there.
We lose. We never know. We know if a club disappears, stops. Do we have any records of? We do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know. Oh. But that's- So have we had any close? Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks.
All right, number 13 on the last page, bank depositories for approval. We do this each year. That's the same list of banks that we carry this year. They all have a specific reason for being on our list. Number 14 is our cooperative purchasing programs that we participate in. letters A through J, and all those cooperative purchasing programs are available for us to buy from. At number 15 is our 26-27 lunch and breakfast prices. We are not changing those prices from 25-26 to 26-27. And number 16, each year, what we do is we ask for your permission over the summer to continue to pay bills so that we don't, we're not assessed late fees or so forth. So we pay the bills, and as we get bills ready, we will send you an email with a list of bills and ask you to let us know if you have any questions on those. We usually send them to you at the end of the week, and then the beginning of the next week, if we don't have any questions, we'll release those bills. But then we'll bring that whole list back to you in August for your final formal approval. But this just allows us to continue to run the business of the school district over the summer, since we have such a period of time where we don't meet.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The lunch program has a separate budget.
Yes.
And you set the price based on last year, or was that mandated what price you can charge?
So the nutritional service program is its own budget. There is guidance from the Federal Department of Education on lunch prices through PDE on lunch prices. And if you have a surplus of funds, which our program does,
Okay,
then you're not allowed to raise lunch prices.
that makes sense.
So,
Okay, so we had a surplus.
we are carrying a surplus, yes. Yep,
No reason.
correct. That's all I have.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Please.
Just need to leave now.
All right.
3 minutes.
Thank you for staying. Whoever's still watching at home, hopefully there's one of you. Have a good night.